heavyweight boxing champion sustained minor injuries when his vehicle collided with a stationary truck along a busy section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And we'll bring you all the very latest on this breaking news story. And France's biggest policing union is refusing to stop les bateaux in French waters, claiming it is too dangerous for illegal immigrants. Well, despite Keir Starmer claiming that intercepting dinghies was essential, French cops claim that immigrants could get injured and could sue them. Is it finally time to defund the French? And could Nigel Farage help kick out Sadiq Khan as London Mayor? Well, the Reform UK leader claims his upstart party are going for gold in May's local elections with an eye on the 2028 mayoral race. Could the London Mayor's days be numbered? And a group of brassed-off barbers and hairdressers have given Labour MPs the chop by banning them from their salons. Following the lead of 1,000 pub landlords, the crimpers reckon Rachel Reeves has them by the short and curlies after hiking business rate taxes to unsustainable levels. I'll be joined by a couple of crimpers on today's show. And Edinburgh's Hogmanay celebrations get underway this evening with the Torchlight procession launching several days of street parties, music, fireworks and, of course, firewater. We'll bring you all of the build-up. That's all coming up in your next hour. Once the show's played to have your company. I want to thank all of you over the Christmas period for coming and saying hello to me in all parts of the country I've been in. I've stopped in the queue for my carvery on Christmas Day in Stroud by a bunch of GBNews viewers who wanted selfies to say hello. Thank you so much. And in Nottingham, I was absolutely blown away in a pub called the Thurland, where my dad's been going since he was a wee lad and now he's 87. A group of veterans came over and thanked the channel for what we do. One of them, who's done 4 tours of Afghanistan, 3 in Iraq and 1 in Somalia, was crying like a baby, giving me a hug and calling me a hero. I'll tell you what, I was completely and utterly humbled by such nonsense. The true heroes are our veterans, but it's so heartwarming to speak to you and to come over and say hello, shake hands. I'm always up for a pint and a bit of politics. Thanks for all your wonderful comments. We've got a great show today. We've got Matthew Stadlin in the studio today. 3 hours of jiggery pokery.
I also get stopped in the street by GB News viewers.
There you go. For a different reason, no doubt. Get in touch usual way, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or use the QR code on the screen there if that's your cup of tea. Now, everyone's cup of tea is your headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. 3 minutes past 3 here in the GB newsroom. Good afternoon to you. The British-Egyptian campaigner Alaa Abd el-Fattah has apologised after social media messages emerged that show him endorsing the killing of Jewish people and police. Sir Keir Starmer is facing calls from MPs to strip Mr el-Fattah of his British citizenship. He's been criticised, the Prime Minister, for saying he was delighted by the dissident's arrival in the UK on Friday. The activist, who was granted citizenship in 2021 through his British-born mother, says his posts have been completely twisted. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says Mr el-Fattah should be deported.
He said he hated white people, he described white people as dogs, he expressed anti-Semitic views, he called for Jewish civilians to be murdered, he called for Downing Street to be burnt down, he called for the British police to be attacked. This man is a scumbag, he has no place in the UK, and if I was Home Secretary, I would strip him of his British citizenship and deport him to Egypt. And if Shabana Mahmood had our country's interests at heart, she would be doing exactly that today.
Volodymyr Zelensky says a peace plan to end the war with Russia is 90% agreed after talks with Donald Trump in Florida yesterday. The Ukrainian president added the US has offered 15 years of security guarantees to his country, which he appears to have accepted, despite asking for 50. Well, the Kremlin's reacted today by saying Ukraine should withdraw its troops from the disputed Donbass region. Vladimir Putin instructing his generals to gain full control of Zaporizhia and of the Donbass. President Trump accepts the issue of territory remains unresolved.
Some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months. And you're better off making a deal now. Look, let me tell you, they have been very brave. They fought very hard and continue to fight very hard and do tremendous damage. But Russia would like to see it end, and Ukraine would like to see it. And I think it's time to end.
A mother and her 2 children have been killed in a house fire which destroyed their home in Stroud on Boxing Day. Gloucestershire police say a 7-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy and their mother, aged in her late 30s, were trapped inside the burning property. They say their father, who managed to escape, is a serving officer. They have described it as a tragic accident. Separately, a child's died, with another taken to hospital after a house fire in Kent. Emergency services say 3 firefighters suffered minor injuries tackling the intense blaze in the village of Ham Street near Ashford. And China says it's begun large-scale military operations around Taiwan. It's released simulations including a blockade of major ports, attacking maritime targets and fending off what it calls international interference. The Taiwanese government says it's deployed appropriate force in response. It's called on Beijing to halt its activities. China, which claims the self-ruled island as its own territory, has recently sanctioned a number of US arms firms for their exports to Taiwan. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more at 3:30.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, breaking news this past hour. British boxing heavyweights champion Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. Joshua, who is 36, has sustained minor injuries after his vehicle collided with another car. Now, according to Ogun State Police, he has been taken to hospital. The police are now investigating the cause of the accident. The crash along a busy section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway happened at around 11 a.m. local time today. And prior to the crash, Joshua had posted a video on Instagram, as you can see on your screens now, where he is leisurely playing table tennis. And this comes just 10 days, of course, after Joshua's big money fight against YouTuber Jake Paul. Well, moving on to our next story now. And Keir Starmer's plans to curb channel crossings have stalled after French police unions have blocked a deal to intercept small boats, warning that officers could face prosecution if interventions at sea led to migrant deaths. That's despite an agreement with President Macron. Well, join me now is the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, welcome to the show. I trust you had a very, very Merry Christmas. Here we go again. Keir Starmer has called this deal essential to stopping the boats, stopping les bateaux. The French police and unions don't agree. They think it's too dangerous. Have we completely lost the plot?
Well, I think the Labour government certainly has, and I think Keir Starmer keeps marching himself up a hill when it comes to negotiating with the French. We've seen numerous schemes initiated since he became Prime Minister, and they have amounted to absolutely zero. Of course, the main one of those being the one in, one out deal, where we've repeatedly now, I think on several occasions, seen individuals that have been deported returning to the UK. So there's clearly not a deterrent there. And we continue to see numbers coming across even during these cold winter days. We're still seeing individuals coming across on the small boats. So we've given about £500 million to the French, sort of begging them, pleading with them to help us solve this problem. And it's very clear now. We've got, I think, enough empirical data to suggest that working with the French really isn't actually going to solve this problem. And we'd be much better off going down a unilateral route of detaining and deporting those that have come into the country illegally. And that, of course, does require beating over the head the governments of those countries of origin that are refusing to take back individuals. It also requires doing what the Conservatives were trying to do with the Rwanda scheme, having a third country detention and deportation programme with them as well. But unfortunately, this Labour government, the first thing they did when they came into government was rip up that semblance of a deterrent. And what we've seen ever since is them desperately trying to restructure and rebuild any plan to stymie these boats. And I really think actually, the French are clearly not operating in good faith at this point, actually. And I think really, whether it's the unions, it's the mayor of Calais, it's politicians within Macron's government themselves, they've all come out and sort of thrown cold water on any grand scheme to cooperate with us to solve this problem. So I think the writing's on the wall now for cooperation with the French being anywhere a solution for this. And it's time that we just started taking matters into our own hands.
I think many people will agree with that. Rob Bates, thank you for joining us today. Short but sweet. Be seeing more of you soon. Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates, and Happy New Year to you too, sir. Well, I'm joined in the studio today by the political commentator Matthew Stadler for 3 hours of festive jiggery-pokery. Matthew, always a pleasure to have your esteemed company.
Great to see you.
Let's start the day by shaking
It's still Christmas.
It is still Christmas.
May I also take this opportunity to thank GBNews viewers who come up to me in the street and thank me for my contributions.
Do they throw anything at you?
No, they don't. 99% of the time, they're extremely nice. They say things like, I don't agree with nothing you say, this black cabbie, he said, but I really like you, and, well, you know.
Good. Well, let's get back to business and let's start having a bit of a fallout. Because I put it to you, Matthew Stadland, the French gendarmerie, the Union Alliance, telling the gendarmerie maritime to stop intercepting boats, despite the fact it was meant to be an agreement between Britain and France. They are unfit for purpose and we need to defund the French. Stop sending them any money.
So, first of all, let's be straightforward about this. The government has so far, the Labour government has so far, Keir Starmer has so far failed to do what they said they would do. So their policy was to smash the gangs. That was the flagship part of the policy. They want to stop the boats, just as Rishi Sunak did, just as any Prime Minister, I think, or perhaps not Zach Polanski, but he'd want to stop the boats, but he'd want them to come in different avenues. Any Prime Minister can see that this is politically toxic, OK? So Labour have so far failed on that. They, I hope, accept that themselves. But I do think the French, and this is a rare occasion where I agree with what Rob was saying, your previous guest, I think there probably is an element of bad faith from the French. Why do I say that? Because unless I'm unaware of some law, and you'll correct me, no doubt, if I am unaware of this, couldn't this whole issue be stopped entirely if the French government said, we will take back everyone who arrives on British shores in a dinghy?
Yeah.
And that wouldn't just help us, it would help them, because immediately there would be an overwhelming deterrent for people living in the awful conditions, these are human beings, awful conditions that they're living in Calais and elsewhere in northern France.
But there's more chance of me being an astronaut than that happening. Well, why on earth would they do it? They've got their own problems. Macron is even less popular than Keir Starmer.
Parts of northern France are in a very bad way indeed. Would we want the sort of camps that pop up in northern France to be popping up in southern England? I would suggest to you, no, we do not. If the French said we will take back everyone that arrives on a dinghy, never mind this measly one-in, one-out scheme, which I'm very sceptical about, the French said we will take back the people who arrive on your shores by dinghy. My hope had been, when Starmer became Prime Minister, that he would have influence over the French in a way that the Conservatives, who you might argue were tainted by Brexit, even though David Cameron campaigned against, he would have influence over Macron. So far, that doesn't seem to have been successful.
Well, they're completely and utterly ignoring Keir Starmer. More to the point, worse, they're taking £500 million a year. They're agreeing in principle to enforce a rule the coppers won't do at ground level. So the whole thing is unfit for purpose. It's a chocolate teapot, and they should stop the money.
If we're not seeing progress, I agree that the money should stop. But remember, this is all part of a bigger and very, very important relationship with the French, which extends beyond this particular issue. We don't want to be petty. We don't want to fall out with the French unnecessarily. Key question, Martin. What happens? Let's say the French don't play ball, and there's no prospect at the moment of them playing ball. What happens to the people who come here? So the government's policy is to stop the boats, but once people get here, a lot of people are granted some form of asylum. How do you deport people that the government actually wants to deport if you don't know where they're from? And you keep telling us they throw their passports overboard.
Yeah, they do.
So if we don't know what their nationality is, how can we send them back to any country?
Well,
that's a fundamental problem here. That's one of the reasons why this is such a thorny issue.
Well, how about
if Farage becomes PM, it will still be a thorny issue.
But detain them and process them rather than putting them into a hotel so they can simply wander into Britain and work in the black economy.
What do you do once you process? They are processed.
A deterrent. They have to be shipped out. Otherwise, this tide will never, ever stem.
Where do you ship them out to?
For starters, a prison. And then we'll take it from there. That might soon stem the flow. Matthew, you've been told we've got to move on. This is going to be a great fun 3 hours. Keir Starmer is facing questions over his reaction to the return of a British Egyptian activist, some are calling an extremist. Alaa Abd el-Fattah, once jailed in Egypt, previously made posts calling for the mass killing of Israelis. Comments now resurfacing and sparking huge debate. But Labour has defended its support, saying it welcomes the return of British citizen Alaa Abd el-Fattah, who it says is unfairly detained abroad. But this is what Keir Starmer had to say back in 2022.
And can I start by raising the case of Alaa Abd el-Fattah?
Yes.
As the Prime Minister knows and has said, he's a British citizen, jailed for the crime of posting on social media and been imprisoned in Egypt for most of the last 9 years. He's been on hunger strike for the last 6 months. Now, the Prime Minister just said that he raised it with President Sisi. Can he tell us what progress he made in securing Alaa's release?
Now, that is a crucial clip to play there, because today, Keir Starmer, in fact, everybody, he's got the fingerprints on this release, this granting of British citizenship, Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, David Lammy, the Deputy PM, Conservatives, including James Cleverly, Ian Duncan-Smith. They all said, we weren't aware of these social media posts, but there's Keir Starmer talking about social media posts in 2022. Matthew Sadler, let's get some reaction to what's been going on. It's an astonishing state of affairs. Some of these comments are worthy of repetition. Britons are dogs and monkeys. The police are not human. They should be killed. The City of London and Downing Street should be burned down. Zionists should be killed, including using drones to target their weddings. The Holocaust didn't happen, and white people are a blight on earth, and there needs to be a genocide to wipe them out. Lucy Connolly was sent to jail for much, much less than that. Why on earth is this individual even on British soil?
So it is interesting because hypocrisy can work both ways, and some of the people who were championing Lucy Connolly and saying she should never have gone to prison are now campaigning to strip someone of their citizenship and have them deported. I'm not saying that what Lucy Connolly did was equivalent to what this person did. This person made repeated outrageous and probably criminal tweets, although I'm not sure that they were from this jurisdiction, so there are question marks as to whether he broke British law. Starmer in 2022 clearly wasn't referring to the outrageous comments that you've just referred to there. I imagine what he was referring to was comments that got this man imprisoned without fair trial in Egypt.
Why didn't they vet this individual's social media? It's utterly moronic.
So as a journalist, I've been in touch directly with the Home Office today to try to understand what's going on. And they said to me, in direct response, there are no grounds to reject an application on character requirements for this sort of case because he got his citizenship through his mother. Now, had he got his citizenship through some other means,
he'd have been checked.
Then he would have been checked. Yeah. Nonetheless, Liz Truss, as Foreign Secretary for Boris Johnson's government, campaigned for his release.
Yep. They were wrong as well.
By the way, you can campaign for someone's release while condemning other stuff they've done. Two things can be true at once.
But it was never mentioned.
To the extent that people are angry about this, the Tories are complicit as well. Where Starmer has made a mistake, he clearly wasn't informed back in 2022 about the stuff you've just been reading out. Where Starmer and his team definitely made a mistake was to say that he was delighted that this man was coming back. You don't say you're delighted about someone coming back if you know, which he says I think he didn't, that those sorts of tweets had been made however long ago. So that was a real boo-boo by Starmer.
Just say we take the Prime Minister, just say we take David Lammy, just say we take the whole damn lot of them at face value and say they didn't know. That in itself is unforgivable. It's like saying the dog ate my homework. It's an excuse not worthy of anybody who should be running the country, and that's the bigger point.
So what's shocking about...
They virtue signal, they campaign for the release of a foreign citizen. Really, they should be expending political capital and energy protecting British citizens.
So what's shocking is that Starmer's team, and I would suggest the same is true of certain Conservatives, were not aware of social media posts, given that this man had I think, a European Peace Prize or Human Rights Prize rescinded in about 2014. There has not been due diligence. There has not been due diligence on this, and it is an embarrassment for the government, just as you could argue it's an embarrassment for the Conservatives. Of course, this is a gift for reform, because they can say, presumably, that they weren't campaigning for this person's release and they can start pointing fingers. The reality is, though, that this man's citizenship was effectively automatic.
And that should be, in itself, corrected.
Well, so I disagree with that. That's where I'll disagree with you.
December the 16th, Keir Starmer vowed to tackle the poison of anti-Semitism. 2 weeks later, welcomed in a proven anti-Semite who's printed utter, contemptible, racist filth against the Jewish community. That should concern you. You tell me often about your grandparents fleeing to this country. Why are you happy with such a vile anti-Semite being on our soil?
Can we be absolutely crystal clear? I'm not happy about what this man said. By the way, he was racist against white people in general. He wanted, I think, white people to be killed. He wanted what he called Zionists to be killed, which can be interpreted as anti-Semitic, although, of course, not all Jews are Zionists. What he said, but the posts that I've seen that this man made were absolutely outrageous, and I would argue strongly, if they were made in this country, would break the law of this land.
Graham Lennon's tweets weren't made in this country. He got nicked when he landed at Heathrow.
But where you and I have a disagreement is whether we should start to rescind, to strip people of their citizenship. Like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who sits in that chair, I think that there shouldn't be a two-tier British citizenship. You're either a British citizen or you're not. Or he's our problem, and he has, by the way, of course, I can't get inside his mind. I don't know whether he means it, whether he's genuinely reformed, but he has apologised.
OK, well, next might be Shamima Begum. That'd be one to look forward to.
I think she should have been let back in, because she's our problem. She was born in this country, for goodness sake.
She tore up her right to be in this country the moment she joined a death cult that wished the extinction of the Western world. That's a conversation for another time. Matthew Stadlen, thank you very, very much indeed. Now, first pubs and now hair salons, Labour MPs get the chop from barbers of what they call the government's great business rates betrayal. That's next on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
are you a human trafficker?
boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's 3:24. Hello to Lee Anderson, who's out there listening his centre commenting before the break. Of course, Matthew Stadlen said he's stopped often by GB News viewers. One of them was a cab driver who thanked him. Lee Anderson has sent this message in. Listen on the radio now, Martin. Let's be absolutely clear. No cab driver has ever praised Matthew Stadlen. Please read that out. Matthew, there you go.
That's very Lee Anderson, isn't it? Counterfactual fake news from Lee Anderson. Could you believe, who'd have thought it? I swear to you that this cabbie did. He hailed me across the road. I was standing outside the hospital visiting a friend. He said, "Matt Stadden, isn't it? I agree with nothing you say, but I really like you." I'm not sure he thanked me, but he definitely liked me.
There you go, Lee Anderson. It's fake news, apparently. Now, let's move on, because the British heavyweight boxing champion, Anthony Joshua, he's been injured in a car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. Joshua, who's 36 years old, has sustained minor injuries after his vehicle collided with another car. Now, according to Ogun State Police, he has been taken to hospital, and police are now investigating the cause of this accident. And the crash along a busy section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway happened at around 11 a.m. local time. And prior to the crash, Joshua had posted a video, as you can see on your screens now, on Instagram, where he's leisurely playing table tennis. Of course, this is just 10 days after Joshua's big money fight against a YouTuber, Jake Paul. Well, moving on, hairdressers are following in the footsteps of pubs by banning Labour MPs over what they are calling the government's business rates betrayal. More than 1,000 boozers have already barred the party's politicians from their boozers in a growing backlash against Rachel Reeves's budget. And now crimpers have followed suit. And joining me now is the co-founder of the Salon Employers Association, Toby Dicker. Toby, welcome to the show, and a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. Except it's not a Happy New Year to Rachel Reeves or Labour MPs, it seems. Crimpers across the land are barring Labour MPs.
Yeah, no, I completely sympathise with those who are barring the MPs because there's been nowhere left to turn. Realistically, when you've tried very kindly and gently for 5 years to persuade the civil servants and those in power what's happening in your industry, and it's literally fallen on deaf ears, then what choice do you have? I think people are now, taking something from the French and standing up for themselves. We did a protest in Parliament in March, and the campaign's grown and grown and grown. At the end of the day, employers and employees within our sector are being punished for doing the right thing, and they have nowhere else to turn. I've got countless stories of people who are desperate, and the big business rates betrayal, as you've called it, is almost the final straw. Most people are already over the cliff, hanging on by their toes, and this government have just made it immeasurably worse to be an employer. Now, I'm a naturally left-leaning person who wants to do the right thing, who wants to see a kind and fair world, who wants to see balanced taxes and all the rest of it. And this Labour government are just wiping out every bit of faith anyone had in them. And that's why people are doing what they do.
And I wonder, Toby, if they should best expand their efforts chasing the more illicit barbershops we see on high streets, but that perhaps don't even pay any tax. Whereas when you're obeying the rules, following the system, paying your tax, such as yourself and all of your members, the odds are stacked against you. Toby Dicker, are you confident perhaps that you could force them into a rethink? After all, we've seen a U-turn on the winter fuel allowance, we've seen the farmers get a victory before Christmas. Do you think if you knuckle down, you might have some impact?
Absolutely, we're going to carry on, because at the end of the day, as I said, if there's no choice, then you'll lose your business. These are the stories I hear from people, right? I get stories every day. So a lady who'd been in the industry 38 years, employing 2 people, took an evening job in a supermarket so that she could pay her employees and the new employer's taxes. She said she's stopping hairdressing. She was rushed to hospital while at that second job with a suspected heart attack, because she was so stressed, and so she's closing her business down. Another one, we're already struggling. I'm a single mum who started her business from scratch. I have a salon, employ all my staff. I'm working hard to keep it together, and I've just had a baby. At this rate, with the VAT and taxes I pay to the economy, I would be better off and less stressed if I sacked everyone and went on benefits. That's the system we're now getting towards, and as I said, most people are pretty centre, pretty kind, decent people. They feel penalised for doing the right thing. I had a stroke, but I got back behind the chair after 3 weeks so I could continue to pay my taxes. I've got countless more examples of this, and what's happened is, like you talk about illicit business, they have allowed a business next door to me to open up, avoid their taxes, reduce their tax burden, become a micro business, and pay You know, a business turning over £400,000, employers pay 110,000 in tax. Next door, they pay 45. Now, some people might say that's clever, but we're being penalised for giving people a future, for taking on apprentices. Apprentices are going to be completely wiped out in 2 years' time. Employment is going to be completely wiped out by the end of this Parliament. If they don't sit down and listen to us, then their workers' rights bill is completely meaningless. And that's the bottom line. Businesses are desperate. People tell me, people are talking about the very, very worst choices they might have to make. They're talking about losing their homes. What am I going to say to my wife? What am I going to say to my kids? The people are desperate. You can't keep coming back to the same lemon and keep squeezing it. What happened is this Labour government absolutely bottled out when it came to the decisions they could have made, because micro businesses really get away with paying a lot less tax. It's the truth. The reason you don't see builders, electricians, plumbers, anyone in our sector grow is because they've got this arbitrary £90,000 VAT threshold and a massively punitive VAT system that kills us. And each time you go, oh, I know, we won't actually tax where we need to. We won't actually tax the giant corporations or the tiny businesses. We'll just smash the middle until it's completely broken. The high street is going to be finished. And you have to take a look, because we're going to keep making noise. You've successfully helped the farmers' campaign. Hospitality and hairdressing occupy the vast majority of the high street. They are the core glue that brings people into high streets, and all you're doing is you're smashing them again and again and again and again. And we've had enough, and no wonder people are now starting to ban people. Listen to us. Spend a couple of hours, because I know that the advisors in government understand this argument. You politically haven't got the bottle to do the right thing, and that's the problem.
Toby Vicker, that was a really emotional statement there. You really, really are an amazing speaker. You know, I tell you what, if you're not going to be in hairdressing, mate, why don't you get involved in politics, Toby Dicker? You just encapsulated that in a way that I just think people don't hear the truth.
They're insulated from the truth. That's the problem. All politicians from all parties, I'm afraid. If you don't sit and really listen to people, you're going to lose us all. There's nowhere to turn in politics now. There's nowhere that really wants to listen. Sit down with us. We've said, sit down for half a day. We will put millions of pounds back in your coffers. We will get the economy moving and growing and doing what it needs to do. We genuinely will. There's brilliant people out there. You might go, we're just hairdressers. These people are brilliant. They understand people so well. Give people respect and listen to us. Your economics degree and your politics degree, and you're walking straight into politics and doing this. Go and do a job. Get people who have run businesses, who understand people, who understand how to grow, and listen to us, because you guarantee you will not be voted in next time.
Toby Dicker, we have to leave it there, but I feel like giving you a round of applause for that, mate. I'll tell you what, that was absolutely magnificent. You know, honestly, let's try and get something going. Let's try and get you down here, get down to Parliament, do anything we can to help give some oxygen to all of this. That's amazing stuff. Thank you very much. Co-founder of the Salon Employers Association, Toby Dicker, thanks for your time, and a happy and prosperous new year, I hope, to you and all of your colleagues. Thank you very much indeed. Now, Labour source has told GB News the government is backing high street businesses across the country, including hairdressers and salons, and that's why the Chancellor announced a support package worth £4.3 billion at the budget last month. There's lots more still to come to now at 4 p.m, including Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has set his sights on seizing control of 6 London councils next year. Could Sadiq Khan's London reign be coming to an end? But first, it's time for your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Very good afternoon to you. Our headlines: the Prime Minister facing calls from MPs to strip an Egyptian dissident of his British citizenship after the emergence of historic posts endorsing violence against Jewish people and police. Alaa Abd el-Fattah has apologised. He says the comments were old and taken out of context. Volodymyr Zelensky says the US has offered Ukraine 15 years of security guarantees to protect against future Russian aggression. It follows a meeting with Donald Trump on Sunday, although the US president says thorny questions over territory remain. A mother and her 2 children, aged 7 and 4, have been killed in a house fire in Gloucestershire. It happened in the Brimscombe Hill area of Stroud in the early hours of Boxing Day. Their father, a serving police officer, escaped but was unable to save his family. New NHS figures show the waiting times for GP appointments have soared under Labour, with around 1.7 million people waiting more than a month to see a doctor in November. And air passengers being warned to prepare for more expensive travel as regional airports across the UK face unprecedented rises in property tax next year. Bristol, Manchester and Birmingham to be amongst the worst hit, with their business rates quadrupling in 2026. There's your headlines. I'll have more coming up for you at 4 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Dry for the rest of today, a few glimmers of sunshine. However, it does remain breezy, particularly across northern and southern areas. Now, high pressure is in charge, but there is a weak cold front pushing southwards through the country. It's not going to bring a lot of rain with it, but it will bring some clearer skies from the north throughout this evening. Before then, though, a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, a few spots of rain here and there, and then clearer skies follow behind. Most prevalent across northwestern areas of Scotland. Here temperatures will fall away quite quickly this evening. We're expecting a fairly harsh frost actually through much of Scotland and parts of northwest England as well. Further south and west, though, with more cloud around, will be a somewhat milder start, and there will be more in the way of sunshine through Tuesday, particularly across northern areas at first. Across the bulk of Scotland, actually, despite the frosty start, there will be plenty of sunshine around and about, as well as across parts of Northern Ireland, northwest Scotland, northwestern England as well. Eastern areas, though, continuing to see cloudier skies and the risk of the odd shower. Could also see some showers moving in across the English Channel coasts as well, but I think for most of us, we should stay dry overnight and into Tuesday. As I said, more in the way of sunshine to come on Tuesday. The best of the sunshine will be in the afternoon, particularly across parts of England and Wales. We've got an onshore breeze, quite a brisk northerly wind affecting many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel once again, so we'll feel much closer to 2 or 3 degrees across parts of northeastern England, but across the south and west, with plenty of sunshine, it won't feel too bad at all. Clear skies continue into Tuesday evening. That will make for a very cold start to New Year's Eve. A widespread frost across much of the UK, and that cold feel will continue as we head into 2026, as there's a risk of snow developing, particularly over the high ground. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across our social media platforms. We're truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M4 eastbound between junction 17 and 16 in Wiltshire, a significant collision closed 2 of 3 lanes, causing 1-hour delays. Traffic should normalise between 4 and 4:15 this afternoon. In Northamptonshire, the A43 southbound has a lane closed due to an accident between the M1 and the A5. All lanes on the A11 southbound in Norfolk are closed due to a collision near the A134 Thetford West. Normal conditions are expected later this evening. And on the trains, major engineering work on Avanti West Coast impacts rugby services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 3:39. You with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has set his sights on seizing control of 6 London councils next year. Now, in May, all 32 London boroughs will contest at the polls, including across the Reform-leaning Outer Belt. and Kent. Now, Reform UK is hoping it has a golden chance, they claim, of helping to topple Sir Sadiq Khan as London's mayor, maybe in 2028. Well, they got their sights set on Sadiq Khan. Let's now speak with the leader of Reform in the London Assembly, Alex Wilson. Alex, welcome to the show. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you, sir. Mr Farage has his targets now set on London. Who would have thought it? Is such a thing possible?
Absolutely. But before I answer that, I'd just like to say how blown away I was by your last guest, Toby, and hearing his testimony about how his colleagues and small business owners in his industry, the hairdressing, are absolutely crucified by this Labour government. We hear the same in hospitality. And this is what happens when you have a government whose front bench, not a single one of them has ever set up and run their own business. They've never taken those risks. They don't understand what it means to keep the cash coming in as well as the cash coming out and employing people. So Toby, if you're still listening to the show, we, Reform, are absolutely listening to what you've got to say. We want to be the party that represents small business. We recognise...
OK, Alex Wilson, let's crack on to Sadiq Khan. Let's give him a fleecing. Go on.
Absolutely. Sure. Look, we've set some ambitious targets. We've got a huge opportunity here. All 32 London boroughs up for grabs. And what I also try and remind, and I've reminded Sir Sadiq on a regular basis, in 2016, in that referendum to leave the European Union, more Londoners voted to leave the European Union than have ever voted for Sadiq Khan as mayor. So the people are out there who are minded to vote for us if we give them the opportunity and the reason to do so. So heading into those council elections next year, particularly, as you say, in that outer donut area where people have been let so badly down by Labour and Sadiq, been hit by ULEZ, hit by police station closures, the fact that only 2% of burglaries in outer London result in a court summons or a charge. Those are the people who will have a real opportunity to say what they think about Labour and Sadiq's record, and the best way they can do that is by voting Reform.
Alex Wilson, I've lived in London 30 years. Undeniably, I've seen it change, and not necessarily for the better, I have to say. But is it not true to say that that London is just a country within a country? Like it or lump it, it seems to be a Labour area forever.
It doesn't have to be that way. As I said, more people voted Leave than have ever voted for Sadiq. Obviously, the turnout very, very different in the referendum compared to sort of lower turnout local elections. But the people are there, and if we give them that opportunity and that reason, as I've said, then we can galvanise and really encourage people to take this almost once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to vote for something different. The local elections elsewhere in the country this year were a phenomenal success, far greater than anybody expected, ourselves included. There's no reason why we can't do the same in London as well. The most recent London-wide opinion poll from Savanta back in November put Reform in clear second place on 23% of the vote. Now, if we can translate that into votes in council elections, and we still need to find a few candidates in some of these boroughs, so if any of your viewers want to stand, go to the party website and apply. But assuming we get people on the ballot paper and we galvanise people out to vote, we can absolutely take control in a very large number of these councils, 32 up for grabs. Obviously, Nigel's talked about targeting half a dozen. Let's see where it goes from there. But there'll be some very exciting and very strange results as well with the input of the Greens and your party if they get organised. It's going to be the most exciting set of London elections in a generation.
OK, Alex Wilson, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time and a very happy New Year to you, sir. And I'll see you again soon. Matthew Stadlin, let's get some reaction from you. It is fair to say, and I think things are changing a lot. The political mood has never been more volatile. The Greens certainly could be doing a big damage to the Labour Party in London by splitting the vote. A lot of the polls have Labour down to a handful of seats if a general election were held tomorrow in London. So times, they are changing. But are they changing enough for Nigel Farage to get a grip in London?
So you should never take anything for granted in politics, and when you're as unpopular as this Labour government appears to be at the moment, certainly can't take anything for granted. It cannot take the capital for granted. Boris Johnson was Mayor of London, 2 terms, shook things up. Labour stronghold, apparently, but with his charisma and his personality, I thought he was a disastrous Prime Minister, but he managed to win London. That would give, I presume, Nigel Farage hope if he can find the right sort of personality. That said, other than Farage himself and perhaps Tony Blair decades gone, there isn't really anyone like Boris Johnson. So they need to find a candidate who can really appeal. And the problem for them is that Reform's brand of politics alienates people in a way that, of course, it's got its followers, we know they're ahead in the polls, but alienates people in a way that, at the time, I don't think Boris Johnson particularly did. I would just take this opportunity to say that I saw early figures released, I think, by the mayor's office over the summer, that homicides were down. I don't know whether it was an all-time down, but down for a while. That's obviously good news. Yes, we need to get a grip on phone theft and other relatively low-level crimes. I was a victim of that myself. It's very unpleasant to be a victim of that. But London is still a wonderful city, and something that pains me is there are so many...
50% increase in sexual assaults on the tube.
Horrific.
There is a lot of horrible crimes going on in London.
It's absolutely horrific. It needs to be cleaned up. What I would say, though, is I don't recognise the picture that is painted of our great capital city, partly by Americans. You think how violent American cities are compared to London. It's kind of outrageous, and it's nonsense.
But then you said that yourself.
I'm a great defender of London.
You were often saying that London is the best city on earth, and then you were mugged by some scrones.
I don't know whether you call it mugged. Someone came up from behind me while I was holding the dogs, plucked my mobile phone out from behind me and raced off. I couldn't catch up with them. Technically, you might call that a mugging. It certainly felt like being mugged off, and it was very unpleasant. But that doesn't mean, from my experience, even though it's not unique, doesn't mean that London isn't still a wonderful city. I think we should do much more to talk ourselves up. That was something, by the way, that Boris Johnson was good at. He was good at talking up this country and probably good at talking up London. Let's not be negative on one of our great assets. Can reform win some seats? Possibly. I suspect it's unlikely, but it's not impossible.
Thank you very much, Matthew Sadler. Now, if you search some holidays on this year, here's a forecast for some of the top European destinations. I'm really enjoying the show.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Are you after some sunshine this Christmas period? There is some on offer, particularly if you're going to the Canaries. Plenty of sunshine here, but Madeira seeing outbreaks of rain for Tuesday and brighter skies for Spain and Portugal. Sunny spells here, 1 or 2 showers, but more settled across into Italy, parts of Greece where we'll see showers, some longer spells of rain at times, but particularly mild for the time of year, 15, 16 Celsius. Turning cooler here over the next few days, but increasing amounts of sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, pub bosses say they face financial ruin after Rachel Reeves' stealth tax raid in the budget as pint prices are ramped up, opening hours are cut and staff are laid off in desperate attempts to keep running.
So this morning we're asking, would you pay more for your pint to save local pubs?
Well, joining us now is pub owner Mark Bridgen and Communications Officer for the IEA, Reem Ibrahim. Really good to see you both this morning. Mark, let's start with you. We've spoken to you a lot about your lovely pub. Would you want people to pay more for a pint in order to save your business?
Well, it's looking like the only option. Yeah, with the increased taxes on every level and now the stress around rates increase and valuation agency, I don't know anyone that is making any money, so it feels like the only thing to do is to raise your prices. The irony is that actually at the moment many of us are actually putting down our prices to try and get people through the doors. You know, in a desperate bid to stay alive, we're having to, try and offer even more value.
Do you think the government is just tone deaf to the plight of our landlords of pubs and restaurants across the country?
They absolutely are. I mean, over 21,000 pubs have closed since 1980. That's half of that in the last 2 decades alone. So I really do think that the government have tax regulated, restricted pubs to the oblivion. But this is where I disagree with Mark. I don't think it's up to businesses themselves to say, you know what, we're going to remove our profit margins even further. We know that the hikes in national insurance contributions and increase in the minimum wage have a huge impact on small businesses.
GB GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a reminder, the British heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. Joshua, who is 36, has sustained minor injuries after his vehicle collided with another car. Now, according to Ogun State Police, he has been taken to hospital and police are now investigating the cause of the accident. As you can see on your screens there now, we have a map. The crash took part along a busy section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and it happened at around 11 a.m. on local time. Now, this comes, of course, just 10 days after Joshua's big money fight against YouTuber Jake Paul. These are latest pictures there. Wow, you can see the car is absolutely wrecked. Latest pictures there from the scene. That appears to be a lorry. We're still trying to get details. I think it appears to be a lorry that was struck. We heard reports that it may have been stationary. The lorry was stationary. The SUV being driven by Joshua's people. 2 people in the front seats, we understand, were killed. Anthony Joshua was sitting behind the driver, and another passenger behind the front seat passenger also was largely unhurt. Anthony Joshua's security detail was following in an SUV behind them. You can see their pictures on your screen. First pictures from the site there. It appears to be the vehicle Anthony Joshua was in, absolutely piled in the front there. 2 died in that. We'll have more throughout the rest of the show. Now, moving on, Edinburgh's Hogmanay festivities begin with the torchlight procession later today. The Hogmanay, of course, dates back to 1993 and has evolved to become one of the greatest outdoor celebrations of New Year's Eve in the world. Let's go now to Edinburgh and speak to GB News' Scotland reporter Tony Maguire. Tony, the countdown is on to Hogmanay, and you're there.
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. You know, it's a chilly start to the Hogmanay festivities, I will say. I was thinking back there, I think this is maybe only the 2nd or 3rd time I've worn a hat on air. Gives you an idea of the temperature, but it's not going to be raining, which is all important because, of course, last year the festival was washed out. There was no Hogmanay at all in 2024. This year it looks to be very much on, but it is cold, and I think what I really need is fire. Lots and lots and lots of fire. 15,000 fires to be precise, because that's how many torches are going to be flowing down through the Royal Mile towards Holyrood Park later on. And that torchlight procession is, as you say, going to kick off the Hogmanay festivities. That river of fire expected to attract people, visitors from all around the world, as well as some Edinburgh locals as well, to really get the party started in style. This is the beginning of a 72 hours worth of celebration at the tail end of the year. Tomorrow things will be kept moving along with a range of gigs and with musicians as well as some comedy shows. But then, of course, on Wednesday, that all-important street party, one of the biggest in Europe, around between 50 and 70,000 people coming along to have a dance, have a drink, and really share in the bells at the new year, with the fireworks will get set off that behind Edinburgh Castle right behind me. So let's get the party started.
Tony Maguire looks superb. You make sure you hang on to your sporran and make sure you have a little nip of something there to keep you warm throughout that cold Edinburgh evening. Tony Maguire, see you later on in the show. Magnificent as always. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, just a quick reminder there, Anthony, Joshua, we've got some latest pictures. We'll quickly get them up, the dramatic pictures from that car crash site in Nigeria. Anthony Joshua's vehicle, the latest pictures, piled into what appears to be a stationary truck. It's an incredible state of affairs when you think that he actually walked away from that relatively unscathed. Anthony Joshua, we bring that in full after the latest news headlines. Stay with us here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel on this Betwixtmas time. Thanks for your time. But first, here is your weather forecast. See you shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Dry for the rest of today, a few glimmers of sunshine. However, it does remain breezy, particularly across northern and southern areas. Now, high pressure is in charge, but there is a weak cold front pushing southwards through the country. It's not going to bring a lot of rain with it, but it will bring some clearer skies from the north throughout this evening. Before then, though, a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, a few spots of rain here and there, and then clearer skies follow behind. Most prevalent across northwestern areas of Scotland. Here, temperatures will fall away quite quickly this evening. We're expecting a fairly harsh frost, actually, through much of Scotland and parts of northwest England as well. Further south and west, though, with more cloud around, will be a somewhat milder start, and there will be more in the way of sunshine through Tuesday, particularly across northern areas at first. Across the bulk of Scotland, actually, despite the frosty start, there will be plenty of sunshine around and about, as well as across parts of Northern Ireland, northwest Scotland, northwestern England as well. Eastern areas, though, continuing to see cloudier skies and the risk of the odd shower. Could also see some showers moving in across the English Channel coasts as well, but I think for most of us, we should stay dry overnight and into Tuesday. As I said, more in the way of sunshine to come on Tuesday. The best of the sunshine will be in the afternoon, particularly across parts of England and Wales. We've got an onshore breeze, quite a brisk northerly wind affecting many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel once again, so we'll feel much closer to 2 or 3 degrees across parts of northeastern England, but across the south and west, with plenty of sunshine, it won't feel too bad at all. Clear skies continue into Tuesday evening. That will make for a very cold start to New Year's Eve. A widespread frost across much of the UK, and that cold feel will continue as we head into 2026, as there's a risk of snow developing, particularly over the high ground. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Today, the M4 eastbound between junctions 37 and 38 has an incident closing lanes. The A11 southbound in Norfolk between the A134 Thetford West and the A101 is closed due to a collision. The M4 in Wiltshire between junctions 16 and 17 has 2 lanes closed, causing 1-hour delays. The M60 anti-clockwise in Salford is congested between junctions 11 and 13. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central, Northampton and Rugby. Cross Country is undergoing engineering work in Cambridge. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a Merry Twixmas, as they call it. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. Delighted to be back with you after a festive break, broadcasting live across the UK, all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show. Here's what's on your menu today. Now, Labour has claimed it cannot deport the Egyptian extremist Alaa Abd el-Fattah. And that's despite a massive public backlash and also outcry from the Jewish community, Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch. Critics point out that Lucy Connolly was jailed for far less. So why was el-Fattah ever allowed into Britain? Is this further proof that our woke political class is completely unfit for purpose? The latest reports say that the boxer Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. The former 2-time heavyweight boxing champ sustained minor injuries. You can see the latest pictures on your screens there now. The vehicle absolutely collapsed in, was pummeled. He suffered minor injuries, incredibly, from that when his vehicle collided with a stationary truck along a busy section of the Lagos-Ibadan expressway. We'll bring you all the very latest updates. And France's biggest policing union is refusing to stop the boats in French waters, claiming it is too dangerous for illegal immigrants. Well, despite Keir Starmer claiming intercepting dinghies was essential, French cops claim immigrants could get injured and they might sue them. Is it finally time to defund the French? And could Nigel Farage help kick out Sadiq Khan as London Mayor? Well, the Reform UK leader claims his upstarts party are going for gold in May's local elections with an eye on the 2028 mayoral race. Could the London Mayor's days be numbered? And a group of brassed-off barbers and hairdressers have given Labour MPs the chop by banning them from their hair salons. And they're following in the footsteps of 1,000 pub landlords, and the crimpers reckon Rachel Reeves has them by the short and curlies after hiking business rate taxes to unsustainable levels. And I'll be joined by one of the crimpers. And Edinburgh's Hogmanay celebrations get underway this evening with the Torchlight procession launching several days of street parties, music, fireworks and firewater. We'll be live from Edinburgh for all of the build-up, and that's all coming up in your next hour. So breaking news just come in this past hour. Anthony Joshua, the 2-time British boxing champ, has suffered minor injuries. Incredibly, he only suffered minor injuries. We have some pictures we can bring you in a short moment's time. The scene from that crash. There are other more harrowing videos emerging, we understand, online. The vehicle that Anthony Joshua was a passenger in, we understand he was sitting behind the driver, collided with a stationary truck. That's the truck that the vehicle collided with, and you can see the next picture now. That was the vehicle Anthony Joshua was in. It's absolutely caved in, the front of it. It's incredible that anybody walked away from that injured. Anthony Joshua, we understand, is in hospital in Nigeria and is being treated. We'll have full updates on this incredible story. Of course, only 10 days after Joshua pummeled Jake Paul to the canvas in that Netflix fight. An incredible scene there. That vehicle absolutely caved in. It almost seems a miracle at Christmas, and Anthony Joshua walked away from that. We'll bring you full details throughout the rest of the show. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. You can use the QR code on your screen if that floats your boats. But now it's your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Our headlines in the GB newsroom.
The British-Egyptian campaigner Alaa Abd el-Fattah has apologised after social media messages emerged that show him endorsing the killing of Jewish people and police. Sir Keir Starmer is facing calls from MPs to strip Mr el-Fattah of his British citizenship. The activist who returned to the UK, he arrived in the UK on Boxing Day following several years of imprisonment in Egypt, says his posts have been completely twisted. The Conservatives and Reform UK say the Home Secretary should revoke his citizenship. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says the activist should be deported.
He said he hated white people, he described white people as dogs, he expressed anti-Semitic views, he called for Jewish civilians to be murdered, he called for Downing Street to be burnt down, he called for the British police to be attacked. This man is a scumbag, he has no place in the UK, and if I was Home Secretary I would strip him of his British citizenship and deport him to Egypt. And if Shabana Mahmood had our country's interests at heart, she would be doing exactly that today.
British boxer Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 people, according to local media in Nigeria. Officials say they believe Joshua's vehicle crashed into a stationary lorry while overtaking at speed along a busy section of the Lagos to Ibadan Expressway in the southwest of the country. It happened at around 11 a.m. local time. Local police say the former 2-time heavyweight champion was taken to hospital for minor injuries but is fine. Mr Joshua was born in Watford but has often spoken of his Nigerian heritage, and he has family roots in the state of Ogun. It comes 10 days after his big money fight against the YouTuber Jake Paul. Volodymyr Zelensky says a peace plan to end the war with Russia is 90% agreed after talks with Donald Trump in Florida yesterday. The Ukrainian president added the US has offered 15 years of security guarantees to protect against future Russian aggression, which he appears to have accepted despite asking for 50 years. Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, has instructed his generals to gain full control of the disputed Donbass region and says Ukraine should withdraw its troops if it wants peace. President Trump accepts the issue of territory remains unresolved.
Some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months. And you're better off making a deal now. Look, let me tell you, they have been very brave. They fought very hard and continue to fight very hard and do tremendous damage. But Russia would like to see it end, and Ukraine would like to see it. And I think it's time to end.
A mother and her 2 children have been killed in a house fire which destroyed their home in Stroud on Boxing Day. Gloucestershire police say a 7-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy and their mother, aged in her late 30s, were all trapped inside the burning property. They say their father, a serving officer with the force who managed to escape, was unable to save his family, describing it as a tragic accident. Separately, a child has died and another taken to hospital after a house fire in Kent. Emergency services say 3 firefighters suffered minor injuries tackling an intense blaze in the village of Ham Street near Ashford. Finally, 10 men have been named super donors by NHS Blood and Transplant. They are the only people in the last 20 years to donate plasma, platelets, stem cells and blood, all used to help treat a variety of injuries and illnesses, including life-threatening accidents and cancer. The group age between 31 and 64 are also on the NHS organ donor register. They've been praised for their dedication in helping as many people as they can. There's your headlines. I'll have another update for you at about 4:30.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, is facing questions this morning of his reaction to the return of a British-Egyptian activist. Alaa Abd el-Fattah, once jailed in Egypt, previously made posts calling for the mass killing of Israelis. Comments now resurfacing and sparking huge concern and debate. Now, the Labour Party has defended its support, saying it welcomes the return of the British citizen Alaa Abd el-Fattah, who it says was unfairly detained abroad. But let's look back, because this is what Keir Starmer had to say back in 2022.
And can I start by raising the case of Alaa Abd el-Fattah? As the Prime Minister knows and has said, he's a British citizen, jailed for the crime of posting on social media and been imprisoned in Egypt for most of the last 9 years. He's been on hunger strike for the last 6 months. Now, the Prime Minister just said that he raised it with President Sisi. Can he tell us what progress he made in securing Alaa's release?
Now, that comment, that clip there is really worth playing because back in 2022, Sir Keir Starmer seemed to be all over the brief of this individual's social media post, but today he claims he wasn't aware of any social media posts. This is another case of two-tiered interpretation. Well, let's get the views of my next guest now, and that's the national security and the foreign policy researcher, Khaled Hassan. Mr. Hassan, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. Thank you for joining us. I saw a comment that you made on this as an Egyptian citizen. You're simply and utterly furious, ashamed, and quite frankly sickened at the return of this individual, or at least him being granted British citizenship. Tell us why.
Well, it's actually for many reasons. Number one, the fact that the Prime Minister says he's delighted that Alaa Abd el-Fattah is back to Britain. You know, he never lived here, he never paid tax here, he never married here, he never studied here, he never worked here, and I just find this quite astonishing. What do you mean he's back? He was granted citizenship through a legal loophole that had been used and abused by many for generations. You know, his mom was born in London, so she was granted citizenship, and he just got citizenship through his mom. He never claimed to be British. He never actually pursued British citizenship. All he did was criticize, attack, and show utter contempt for Britain as a colonialist power, which is his view of Britain. So I don't really know why he's welcomed back someone who's never even lived here. That's number one. The number two is we are dealing with an extremist, and it's not only him. We are dealing with a family of extremists. Even after yesterday, when he made his insincere apology, he was liking and endorsing a social media post that said that the campaign against him is basically a conspiracy by Zionists. So, for other words, blaming Jews for this entire fiasco. So it shows how inept the government is. And quite frankly, it shows, you know, we are now, the world's laughingstock because we are now begging others. You know, some politicians are saying we have to take him back. And I have to say this, we're stuck with him. No one will take him back. Egypt will not take him back. Any talk about sending him back is just fantasy, to be honest.
Khaled Hassan, do you think it just beggars belief or defies comprehension that the Prime Minister, the office of number 10, the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, the Foreign Minister, Yvette Cooper, everybody that had the fingerprints on the campaign to release this individual seems completely and utterly unaware of all of his offensive posts, and yet they were unearthed within 3 hours by Twitter?
It's unbelievable, and I said this, previously. We don't really have any due diligence in Britain. We no longer do foreign policy. We no longer do national security. We don't do even the basic checks on most cases. We have imported families. I mean, there's another case that I'm investigating of an Egyptian guy who was granted, a visa to come to the UK and work for the NHS, qualified to be a doctor for the NHS. And he says that, his only problem with Hamas is that it's not killing enough Jews. I will reveal this, in due course. But all these cases show that we either don't have the capacity to deal with, the number of people coming to Britain and actually thoroughly investigate them or investigate them at all or do any due diligence at all. But we really have to look at other facts here. We have the Middle East Minister, Hamish Falconer. He was in Egypt a couple of months ago. Though he has a team of Arabic-speaking professionals as the Middle East Minister. He has access to resources. Why have none of these resources been actually dedicated? And by the way, the Egyptian government, and I released this yesterday, I have a source in Egypt that confirmed to me that Egypt did supply the government and provide a lot of information and a lot of intelligence about Alaa Abd el-Fattah and his past. So why are we ignoring all this? We need to ask those people questions. Everyone has gone into hiding now. The Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and Middle East Minister again. They're all in hiding. No one is answering our questions. And we have questions. They need to be on your show. They need to be on every show answering all these questions that we have, and they need to be held accountable.
Well, Khaled Hassan, I will double down on that. If the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister's office, Yvette Cooper, David Lammy, anybody would like to come on the show to face the music, just give us a call. You're pushing at an open door. Khaled Hassan, thank you for your time and a prosperous new year to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Let's get some reaction now. I'm joined in the studio, of course, by the political commentator Matthew Stadler. Matthew, it's worth, again, reading out a few of these comments from this individual. Britons are dogs and monkeys. The police are not human and should be killed. The city of London and Downing Street should be burned down. Zionists should be killed, including using drones to target their weddings. The Holocaust didn't happen. And white people are a blight on the earth, and there needs to be a genocide to wipe them out. Why on earth is this individual even on British soil?
So there are two things. One is Starmer welcoming this man with delight a couple of days ago or so forth. And the other is, why is he a British citizen? He was granted British citizenship, I think, in late 2021. That was when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister and the Conservatives were in power. However, I have been in touch with the Home Office today, and they have told me directly that the route by which he obtained his citizenship through his mother meant that there was no requirement for there to be checks, basically, as I understand it.
And that's madness.
What they specifically said is that there were no grounds for the rejection of his citizenship on the basis of character, right? So in other words, it seems to me that it was essentially automatic. Then there's a separate question.
Cretinous. Yeah, you have to admit, that's cretinous. Lucy Connolly went to jail for far, far less than this individual's ever posted.
So hypocrisy can work both ways. There are people who were championing Lucy Connolly, and I'm not saying disgraceful, disgusting, and ultimately unlawful, though her post was. I'm not saying that it is the equivalent of what this man did, who seems to have had a pattern, quite some pattern of appalling posts. And nonetheless, there were people who were championing Lucy Connolly on the basis that you shouldn't be put in prison for social media posts. And now we have some of those same people saying this person should be stripped of their British citizenship and deported. Let me address the Keir Starmer point.
You can't
What
compare.
I find astonishing is that no one around Keir Starmer, on a very, very high-profile case, was able to say, hang on a second, just be careful how you word this. Why was no due diligence done before he posted this? Now, that just seems to me to be a cock-up. Liz Truss, let's remember, when she was Foreign Secretary under Boris Johnson, was campaigning for this man's release. And, by the way, it is possible for someone to be detained arbitrarily or put in prison without fair trial in Egypt, and for them to have said really egregious and potentially law-breaking things on social media. Two things can be true at the
Why
same time.
go into bat for somebody with clearly toxic views? He's a proven anti-Semite, so much so he was refused an international award. He's called Brits dogs and monkeys. I just think,
what he said was outrageous.
why go into bat for somebody that's clearly toxic?
You have to ask Liz Truss that. You have to ask
Well,
Boris.
no,
You have to ask
it's
Boris
the Labour
Johnson
government
that.
now.
You also perfectly reasonable question to Keir Starmer and those around him. I think the idea is that he obviously didn't know about the tweets that you've just read
They're
out.
the same people that go, oh, somebody as a councillor for reform once liked a Tommy Robinson tweet 20 years ago. And they would then say, oh, we know all about it, but reform should have checked it, and they haven't checked this guy's social media. I think it's mindless.
Unfortunately, it's an example, in this case, in my view, of incompetence.
OK, we have to move on. Thank you very much. To our next story. Keir Starmer's plans to curb channel crossings, well, they've stalled after French police unions blocked a deal to intercept small boats, warning that officers could face prosecution if interventions at sea lead to migrant deaths or injuries. Now, that's despite an agreement with President Macron setting out precisely that. Well, let's speak to my next guest now. That is Peter Allen. Peter Allen joins us now. Peter, welcome to the show. Isn't it incredible that Sir Keir Starmer calls such a deal essential? And yet now the biggest policing union are saying, mais non, they simply won't follow orders. Is it time to defund the French?
Well, who knows, Martin? This has been going on for a long, long time now. The French have insisted that they're doing everything they can to police France's northern coast, which, of course, is absolutely massive. And they're saying that despite all their efforts, people are getting through whatever happens. Primarily now via small boats. You do get them still climbing into the back of lorries and the like. The Channel Tunnel has pretty much been shut down to migrants. A few years ago, they were coming through the Channel Tunnel. So now they use these inflatable boats. You can see from the pictures there. They are hugely dangerous. They are often designed for maximum 20 people often you'll get 80 people on them because the people smugglers want to pack their profits into those boats and try and get as many people as possible across. We're looking at that boat. It looks like it's mainly young men on those boats. And I have to say a lot of the boats do just contain young men, but there are also plenty with women and children and indeed babies.
Where? I haven't seen any of them. Not any time recently.
Well,
I mean,
we
often hear, Peter. I mean, it's like 80% are, young, fit men.
Well, potentially, yes. I mean, I have to say, having been on the beaches on numerous occasions and seen how they operate, particularly recently, they will put a proportion of women and young children on.
Yeah, but they do that. But Peter Allen, may I interject? They do that precisely because the French coppers, the Gendarmes Maritime, and also the Alliance Union are saying here that if anybody is at slight risk of injury, they won't intervene. May I put it to you that women and children being used as human shields?
That's potentially correct. But then I also say, Martin, crucially, that I've also seen boats just with young men on board where the French will not intervene. Whether there are women and children on board isn't really important to them. They are not intervening once the boat is in the sea. They argue that maritime law precludes them intervening. It's an incredibly dangerous thing to do, they say, whoever is on board. We thought that might have changed. As recently as November, there were leaked letters, including one from President Emmanuel Macron to Keir Starmer, and one from Keir Starmer to Emmanuel Macron, saying that, look, there is going to be a change. We are now going to intervene, particularly in shallow water. What a lot of them are doing now is using so-called taxi boats. The boats come up the inland waterways of France, the rivers, and they pop out empty onto the shore, and then they pick up the migrants. That's a very, very common tactic now.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
what the French
Peter
would do is
Yeah, Peter, I'm afraid we have to move on. But look, thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to have your company as ever. Joyeux Noël to you, and I'll see you again, hopefully, in the new year. Thank you, Peter Allen. Matthew Sadler, let's get a quick blast from you on this. Look, the politicians seem to want something that the coppers just won't do, or at least Emmanuel Macron says he wants it. But I put it to you, if the coppers are saying it's just too dangerous to jam propellers, it's too dangerous to slash the boats, it's too dangerous to get involved, what's the point paying them a damn euro?
Well, it's a reasonable question. I mean, I'm not surprised that French police think it's dangerous to slash boats or jam propellers when they've got human beings in these boats. If the boats are out in the sea, of course, and we don't want anyone to die. That's part of the reason, presumably, you want to stop the boats. My question is, why will the French not simply cut out all of this nonsense and say, look, let's sort your problem and we'll sort our problem in northern France at the same time? If the French took back every person who arrives on a dinghy, there would be no issue, or there would be much less of an issue.
Well, there would be, and there'd be political annihilation for Emmanuel Macron.
Well, it would sort out northern France. You wouldn't have those dreadful
He'd lose the election. No, fair and square. Matthew, been told we have to move on to our next story. Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 people in Nigeria. We'll bring you the latest pictures and all of the emerging details next. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:25 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a reminder, the British heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua, he's been injured in a serious car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. Pictures on your screen there of Joshua, who was injured. He's 36 years age. He sustained minor injuries, incredibly, after his vehicle collided with another car. You can see a map on your screen there now, because according to preliminary police findings, the Lexus Jeep, which Joshua was travelling in, is suspected of travelling beyond the legally prescribed speed limit and lost control during an overtaking manoeuvre, and it then crashed into a stationary truck by the side of the road. Worth just going back onto those pictures you can see on your screen. That there is clearly the truck that we now hear was stationary at the side of the road. And the latest line is the Lexus Jeep, which Joshua was travelling in. That's the pictures there on your screen. You can see it's completely caved in at the front. And as we understand, the driver and the front seat passenger were killed on the impact with that stationary truck. And Anthony Joshua, who was sitting behind the driver, miraculously almost, has walked away from that crash, as has the other passenger in the back seat next to Mr. Joshua. A vehicle behind them, which is believed to contain Anthony Joshua's security detail, wasn't involved in the crash. But the latest line just coming out now, we understand that the vehicle that Mr. Joshua was travelling in is suspected of travelling beyond the legally prescribed speed limit, and it lost control during an overtaking manoeuvre and thereby crashed into a stationary truck by the side of the road. And there are some harrowing videos online emerging of Anthony Joshua mercifully, miraculously, he's survived that crash with minor injuries. Let's discuss this now. I'm joined in the studio by the political commentator Matthew Stadler. Matthew, when you look at those pictures, it really, really is incredible that anybody walked away from that alive. The vehicle's completely caved in, and if we're to believe it, Matthew, the latest line is they were going over the speed limit.
It's a horrifying story, and it's the sort of story, God forbid it happens to anyone, and it may well have happened to people watching the show today, that just will inevitably stay with you for the rest of your life. I mean, if you're in a car crash where people lose their lives, that is profoundly scarring. Thank goodness that Anthony Joshua himself seems not to have been seriously injured. I met him, actually, 10 years ago or so, and I was interviewing him for the Telegraph. I liked him. He was living in much more humble circumstances than I imagine he's living in today. But just looking back at the interview, I thought it was fascinating because he said to me, we've got to be psychos to do what we do. He said it's weird because sometimes when I'm standing there before a fight, this was before he became a world champion, but after he was an Olympic gold medalist, he said, I'm standing there before a fight, I think all these people have come out to see someone knocked the hell out. People have paid money to see blood, someone unconscious on the floor. The more you batter someone, he said, the more fans you get. How crazy is that? That's my job. And he actually said something similar around that Jake Paul fight as well. I don't know what you thought of the Jake Paul fight.
I did watch it. I thought it was an absolute disgrace. I thought it was an insult to the sport of boxing. But, you know, there are 70 million reasons that the pair of them did it each. I'm not a fan of boxing just purely because I'm not a fan of human beings hitting each other in the face. But if you were a fan of boxing, I don't see how you could possibly argue that fight between someone who is a world heavyweight champion and a YouTuber, brave though Jake Paul undoubtedly was, how you could say that isn't bad for the sport. I mean, it's just crazy. But listen, to see him in these circumstances, we've seen unverified videos on social media, as you've said, without his top on, sort of staggering out of this vehicle, really distressing. And my thoughts go out to him, my thoughts go out to his family and to the family of those who we believe have died. It's worth just getting those pictures on screen now, the latest pictures of that crash. It just, I think, it sends a chill down your spine, but it's astonishing that anybody walked away from that, particularly if we're to understand the latest line, that the vehicle that Anthony Joshua was travelling in was going above the speed limit. This is a long freeway between two major cities, so I'm assuming, I don't know, the speed limit will be something like 60, 70 miles an hour, and it was going over the prescribed limit, we understand. If we can get those pictures on the screen of the Jeep that Anthony Joshua was travelling in. We understand it's a Lexus Jeep he was travelling in, suspected of travelling beyond the legally prescribed speed limit, lost control during an overtaking manoeuvre and crashed into a stationary truck by the side of the road. Please, let's try and get those pictures on the screen to show our viewers, if they're just tuning in, you'll see when they come up. It's incredible that anybody could have walked away from this. That's the vehicle, the stationary one. That there is the vehicle that Anthony Joshua was in. Look at it, it's absolutely caved in. The entire front section, the engine is caved in. The two people in the front seats, we understand, were killed on impact. Anthony Joshua travelling behind the driver to the rear and has walked away. Incredible that anybody could walk away from that, Matthew Sadler.
You can't see those horrific pictures. And when you... I've met, as I've said, I've met Anthony Joshua personally, but most of us feel like we've sort of met famous people, don't we? Because they're beamed into our living rooms on TV or through social media. You cannot fail, A, to be moved by it, and B, to just remember the lessons that roads are dangerous places. Of course we use them. We just have to drive so carefully.
And if those reports are true, that the vehicle, we understand, was travelling over the speed limit and crashed into a stationary vehicle, a truck, while attempting an overtaking manoeuvre. So there'll be a huge investigation into the culpability of those involved, but that won't help, of course, those two people in the front seats who we now hear are dead upon impact. And just to repeat again, it's just incredible looking at those pictures to believe anybody could walk away. The effectiveness of modern vehicle design, of course, to be credited. And Anthony Joshua, we're assuming, must have been wearing his seatbelt. So, you know, I've got to admit myself, often don't wear a seatbelt in the back of a car, but looking at that, wow, you really do need to be doing that. Incredible pictures. We'll bring you much more on that story throughout the rest of the show. There's lots more still to come between now and 5 p.m. And thank you to you, Matthew. Hairdressers are following the footsteps of 1,000 pubs by banning Labour Party MPs over what they are calling the government's business rates betrayal. That's next, but first...
Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Good afternoon to you. It is just after 4:30. The Prime Minister facing calls from MPs to strip an Egyptian dissident of his British citizenship after the emergence of historic posts endorsing violence against Jewish people and police. Alaa Abd el-Fattah has apologised, saying the comments were taken out of context, but the Conservatives and Reform UK say he should be deported. Anthony Joshua's been injured in a car crash in Nigeria in which 2 people were killed. Officials suspect Joshua's vehicle crashed into a stationary lorry while overtaking at speed. Local authorities say the 2 dead men are male foreign nationals. Volodymyr Zelensky says the US has offered Ukraine 15 years of security guarantees to protect against future Russian aggression. It follows a meeting with Donald Trump on Sunday. He's indicated, though, thorny issues over territory remain. A mother and her two children, aged 7 and 4, have been killed in a house fire in Gloucestershire. It happened in the Brimscombe Hill area of Stroud early on Boxing Day. Their father, a serving police officer, escaped but was unable to save his family. And new NHS figures show the waiting times for GP appointments have soared under Labour, with around 1.7 million people waiting more than a month to see a doctor in November alone. And those are your headlines in brief. A full bulletin coming up at 5 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Dry for the rest of today, a few glimmers of sunshine. However, it does remain breezy, particularly across northern and southern areas. Now, high pressure is in charge, but there is a weak cold front pushing southwards through the country. It's not going to bring a lot of rain with it, but it will bring some clearer skies from the north throughout this evening. Before then, though, a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, a few spots of rain here and there, and then clearer skies follow behind. Most prevalent across northwestern areas of Scotland. Here, temperatures will fall away quite quickly this evening. We're expecting a fairly harsh frost, actually, through much of Scotland and parts of northwest England as well. Further south and west, though, with more cloud around, will be a somewhat milder start, and there will be more in the way of sunshine through Tuesday, particularly across northern areas at first. Across the bulk of Scotland, actually, despite the frosty start, there will be plenty of sunshine around and about, as well as across parts of Northern Ireland, northwest Scotland, northwestern England as well. Eastern areas, though, continuing to see cloudier skies and the risk of the odd shower. Could also see some showers moving in across the English Channel coasts as well, but I think for most of us, we should stay dry overnight and into Tuesday. As I said, more in the way of sunshine to come on Tuesday. The best of the sunshine will be in the afternoon, particularly across parts of England and Wales. We've got an onshore breeze, quite a brisk northerly wind affecting many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel once again, so we'll feel much closer to 2 or 3 degrees across parts of northeastern England, but across the south and west, with plenty of sunshine, it won't feel too bad at all. Clear skies continue into Tuesday evening. That will make for a very cold start to New Year's Eve. A widespread frost across much of the UK, and that cold feel will continue as we head into 2026, as there's a risk of snow developing, particularly over the high ground. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across social media. We are truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Currently, one lane is restricted eastbound on the M4 between junction 38 at Margam and junction 37 at Pyle due to an incident. In Norfolk, all lanes are closed on the A11 southbound due to a collision between the junctions with the A134 Thetford West and the A1101. In Wiltshire, 2 of 3 lanes on the M4 eastbound are closed between junction 17 and junction 16 following an accident, leading to delays of approximately 1 hour. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton, while Cross Country faces similar works in the Cambridge area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:37. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, hairdressers, they're following in the footsteps of 1,000 pubs by banning Labour Party MPs over what they're calling the government's business race betrayal. More than 1,000 boozers have already barred the party's politicians from their premises in a growing backlash against Rachel Reeves's budget. And now crimpers, well, they're following suit. Well, let's now speak with the Salon owner, Marguerite Marshall. Marguerite, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. A very, very Merry Christmas to you, and I hope you have a very prosperous New Year. So, 1,000 landlords have banned Labour Party MPs, and now some crimpers are following suit. Is that something that you'd be prepared to do?
Although I am right behind all those crimpers, as you put it,
My worry is upsetting any of our clients or any of our staff members, because each time they incur more charges for our business, we have to raise prices. So not only are we battling with keeping clients happy and staff members happy, we are battling with upping prices. So I am right behind them, but I am not putting that sign in the window.
I guess there's a very real impact here, and that is, Marguerite, as well as banning Labour Party MPs, you might upset Labour Party voters, you might upset other people. So you're saying while your heart is in it, the reality of your business is you can't afford to lose any customers.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are, you know, as an industry, we run on very, very low numbers of profit. Because we employ staff, we have huge costs that incur over employing, and our profit margins are so slim that if we lose numbers, we lose even more money to be able to pay all these taxes and things that they are rising at a very fast pace.
Marguerite, I admire your political neutrality. Perhaps you should be a politician yourself. But on a serious point, we often hear, do we not, that the problem is that politicians, whatever their political stripe, whatever the colour of their rosette, they simply don't understand the real world. They certainly don't seem to understand business, and they have no idea about the very real pressures put on people like yourself every single day.
They are so removed from reality and any knowledge of any business, it's embarrassing.
Do you think, Marguerite, they should be forced to do real jobs? I mean, maybe like you could, rather than barring Labour Party MPs from your salon, Marguerite, why not get one in and train them up for a few days, make them do some real work?
Absolutely. We'd love to invite them in for the day. I'd love to invite them in when I'm doing payroll to see what's left at the end of the month to, you know, spend on myself even. So, yeah, bring them on.
I think we should try and do that. Maybe after this call, Marguerite, we can try and find out who your local parliamentarian is. Do you know who your local MP is?
I do.
Are you prepared to tell us? We'll give him a little nudge after the show, if you like.
Jeevan Sandher, who has completely ignored all of my letters and all correspondence.
Well, Marguerite, I may have a New Year's surprise you, because he's been on the show. He's been on the show a couple of times, and he's always very, very friendly. And I think, actually, he might benefit from a beard trim. He might benefit from a haircut. He might benefit from a business lesson. Do you know what? I'm going to get GBNews to reach out to him and say, go and see Marguerite Marshall. Perhaps we can make your New Year's dream come true. Marguerite, what do you reckon to that?
Absolutely. He's recently posted... he's been on a pub crawl locally and in the area, so he's enjoying himself in any pubs that let him in, shall we say.
OK, what you've got to do is get a couple of beers in there and tempting along into your salon. Marguerite Marshall, thank you very much for your time. I wish you a prosperous New Year. I sincerely do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on the show today. Thank you very, very much indeed. Matthew Stadlen joins me in the studio. Isn't this the nub of this, Matthew, that we seem to have a parliamentary class who just don't understand farming, they don't understand pensioners, they don't understand pubs, they don't understand hair salons, they just don't understand the real world?
I think there may well be some truth in that. Also, a party that was out of power for 14 years, power doesn't seem to have come particularly easily to them. You'll find Labour insiders, I think, who've said publicly that they weren't quite as ready for government as they should have been. Marguerite is exactly the sort of voice that GB News should be giving airtime to. It's so important that these perspectives are heard. Speaking from a personal point of view, when I was a presenter on a national radio show for 4 years, I took roughly 13,000 calls over the period of that time. That wrenches you out of your echo chamber, of your comfort zone, because you are hearing so many different voices. Similarly, over the last year, I've done quite a lot of work with Made in Britain that represents British manufacturers, over 2,200 British manufacturers who are making stuff here. And for someone with my sort of background, which has been in media, journalism, academic, it's really powerful to meet people with often very small profit margins who are so passionate about what they do, who work so unbelievably hard and who are putting their own money, almost their own livelihoods on the line because they love what they do and they believe in it. And the government does absolutely need to listen to these people. Just one thing I would say in defence of the government, and that is that you need to get your taxes somehow, because hairdressers, landlords, you and me, everyone watching, those of us anyway who don't have private healthcare, we need a good, strong NHS. We need good state schools. We need to have a functioning society. But I think the mistake Labour made was they boxed themselves in their desperation to win power before the last election by saying they wouldn't raise income tax.
But, Matthew, the point is this. We hear all the time, be it farmers, be it pensioners, be it small business owners, be it publicans, is that there's a feeling that if you get up, you set your alarm, you go to work, you do the right thing, you're a target. If you drive a car, you're a target. If you sit on your backside and you're on benefits, the Labour Party protects you. That's the point. They don't understand the real world, and they say they're the party of workers. They become the party of the work shy.
I think to describe taxes in terms of people being targets is not the right way to put it. We know that this Labour government did want to make headway in reforming the welfare state. They were knocked off course by their own backbenchers. It seems to me that there is progress to be made on welfare, but we cannot pretend that we can live in a society where there is no tax. Tax is painful. Unfortunately, the Labour government have had to go over a couple of U-turns or more, and that is damaging politically, and it's also hurt people in the process.
They have done a U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. They have done a U-turn on the farming tax. Is that political strength, or is it a sign of a complete political weakness?
You could look at it both ways. I think the U-turn on the farmers took so long that I would suggest probably that's weakness. But on the other hand, you've got to say they're listening. When I was first asked about this yesterday on telly about banning Labour MPs, I was furious, not furious, but I thought this was ridiculous. You know, this whole idea of cancel culture, often the left get labelled with that. I'm not a fan of cancel culture, and so I don't like the idea of MPs, whatever party, being banned from pubs, being banned from hairdressers. If I ran a business, I would not ban Nigel Farage from my business. I want to talk to him. I would want to debate him. The only thing I would say is that this initiative does get people talking, and we've seen that the Labour government is prepared to U-turn when there's pressure.
Martha's Adam, superb as ever. Now, Labour Party source has told GB News this. The government is backing high street businesses across the country, including hairdressers and salons, and that's why the Chancellor announced a support package worth £4.3 billion at the budget last month. Now, you've been searching some holiday sun this year, and who can blame you? Then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Are you after some sunshine this Christmas period? There is some on offer, particularly if you're going to the Canaries. Plenty of sunshine here, but Madeira seeing outbreaks of rain for Tuesday and brighter skies for Spain and Portugal. Sunny spells here, 1 or 2 showers, but more settled across into Italy, parts of Greece where we'll see showers, some longer spells of rain at times, but particularly mild for the time of year, 15, 16 Celsius. Turning cooler here over the next few days, but increasing amounts of sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
9:30.
It is indeed.
And as the new year approaches, we've got, for the very first time, our GB News charity calendar. It's on sale, and 100% of the price. I should point out, actually, the pictures were taken by you and voted for by you because we've got so many entries. So you've made this. 100% of the profits go to our 2025 charity partner, which is the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children. And that actually is also proudly supported by Her Majesty the Queen. Really, really lovely
But look, I'm just
pictures.
going to take... There's a... Oh, hold on a sec. There we go. Look, how lovely are those pictures?
It's really nice. It's what is most important is the fact that, as we say, 100% of the money is going to charity. If you pick one up at the GB News shop online, and the chairman of the Taxi Drivers Charity for London is Anthony Moore and is here. It's great to see you.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about what the charity does.
We do several events a year. We take kids to the seaside as a group of taxis. So this year we had 80 taxis transferring around about 200 children. We went to the zoo this year, and so we've done that as an event. Everybody gives up their time. The taxi drivers just give up their time, all just so that the kids can have a good time. We've got our Christmas party, or the Mad Hatters party. That's in January. And we've got now 700 and... We've had to limit the numbers this year. We've got 720 children coming at the moment.
Wow.
But they will be entertained by singers, dancers. We've got the King's Welsh Guards turning up to give them the dimensions of the dance floor. So they're coming to do, in their full regalia, they hang around, hats on children, photographs. So, you know, we do several things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's approaching 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on Twixmas on GB News. Now, Edinburgh's Hogmanay festivities, they begin today with the Torchlight Procession. And the Hogmanay Festival dates back, of course, to 1993 and has evolved to become one of the greatest outdoor celebrations of New Year's Eve in the world. Now, man is there. Let's cross live now to Edinburgh to join GB News' Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. Tony, we are just moments away from Hogmanay kicking off, mate. You there? Are you sober?
Oh, I'm absolutely sober. I'll tell you, this cold air is enough to sober up anybody. But you know, I take a wee second there. Look at the background. I mean, all these blue lights and a bright red castle. I think the city of Edinburgh must have heard that we're reporting on the start of Hogmanay celebrations today. They're very GB News colours. But yes, as you mentioned there, the Hogmanay celebrations for 2025 are kicking off in style. It is cold, but what is the best remedy for that heat? And I think the 15,000 torches that are going to be marching down the Royal Mile shortly are going to give off more than enough heat for the rest of us. And of course, that torchlight procession is such a staple of this Hogmanay celebration, a way to kind of all the way back to the Norse ages. Really, fire has been a part of Scotland's New Year celebrations, and long may it continue. That's going to march all the way down the Royal Mile until it gets to Holyrood Park, passing the Scottish Parliament building on the way, and that's just the beginning of this 72 hours of festivities all across the city. Edinburgh Hogmanay is going to be hosting music concerts and comedy gigs, and of course the city is really alive. You can kind of see it behind me. It's why I've kind of widened the lens a little bit, just to see how busy the city is. And most of the people here that I've even spoke to today have all come from outside Scotland. Edinburgh Hogmanay is such a global icon of New Year's Eve festivals that it attracts huge numbers of people from overseas. And this year actually has even caught the attention of CNN over in America. They're going to be including Edinburgh in its 18-hour Hogmanay, or should I say New Year's Eve special coverage. Hogmanay is going to have a pride of place position in that coverage. But of course, everything really is leading up until Wednesday, when we have that huge and very, very awesome, if I do say so myself, Edinburgh Hogmanay street party. This is Princes Street behind me, very much the main artery that runs through Edinburgh city centre. All the best shops are on this street, and this is going to be filled with tens of thousands of people, up to 70,000 who are going to be filling that. And of course, Princes Street Gardens behind it, watching a lot of live music and really just having a good time. And that is, of course, what New Year's Eve is all about all around the world. You don't have to be Scottish to enjoy that, but there is really something very special about Hogmanay. I've covered it, I think, for the last 10 years. I'd mentioned earlier on, 31st of December is actually my birthday, and after covering it for 10 years and having 10 working birthdays, I've given myself a little bit of time off this year, but I look forward to seeing Bethany Elsie when she comes up for the big event. There's going to be a real show to be had here, and I really look forward to seeing Scotland received, good as it ever is on the world stage, maybe a little precursor for a certain football tournament next summer.
Well, Tony Maguire, it's beautiful that they lay on those fireworks, especially for your birthday. Of course, that's the real reason they do it. The torchlight procession there begins in about an hour and a half's time. Tony Maguire there, always carrying a torch for common sense north of the border there for GB News. Tony, mind how you go and have a wee dram, maybe, of something warming. See you later on in the show. Now, before we go, just want to show those latest pictures again, if we can, of that astonishing scene of Anthony Joshua has had a high-speed car collision in Nigeria. The latest reports we hear is that the car that Anthony Joshua was travelling in, a Jeep, was believed to be over the speed limit while performing an overtaking manoeuvre. That's the vehicle Mr Joshua was in, absolutely caved in. And that helps to explain perhaps why the two people in the front seat, the driver and the front seat passenger, were killed upon that impact. Anthony Joshua sat behind, miraculously survived. We'll have more details on that. And of course, also the French police unions have blocked a crackdown on illegal channel crossings. They won't stop the boats. Is it time to stop the money going to the French? That's next, but first, here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Dry for the rest of today, a few glimmers of sunshine. However, it does remain breezy, particularly across northern and southern areas. Now, high pressure is in charge, but there is a weak cold front pushing southwards through the country. It's not going to bring a lot of rain with it, but it will bring some clearer skies from the north throughout this evening. Before then, though, a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, a few spots of rain here and there, and then clearer skies follow behind. Most prevalent across northwestern areas of Scotland. Here, temperatures will fall away quite quickly this evening. We're expecting a fairly harsh frost, actually, through much of Scotland and parts of northwest England as well. Further south and west, though, with more cloud around, will be a somewhat milder start, and there will be more in the way of sunshine through Tuesday, particularly across northern areas at first. Across the bulk of Scotland, actually, despite the frosty start, there will be plenty of sunshine around and about, as well as across parts of Northern Ireland, northwest Scotland, northwestern England as well. Eastern areas, though, continuing to see cloudier skies and the risk of the odd shower. Could also see some showers moving in across the English Channel coasts as well, but I think for most of us, we should stay dry overnight and into Tuesday. As I said, more in the way of sunshine to come on Tuesday. The best of the sunshine will be in the afternoon, particularly across parts of England and Wales. We've got an onshore breeze, quite a brisk northerly wind affecting many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel once again, so we'll feel much closer to 2 or 3 degrees across parts of northeastern England, but across the south and west, with plenty of sunshine, it won't feel too bad at all. Clear skies continue into Tuesday evening. That will make for a very cold start to New Year's Eve. A widespread frost across much of the UK, and that cold feel will continue as we head into 2026, as there's a risk of snow developing, particularly over the high ground. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The westbound A465 between Neath and Landersea has lane closures due to an accident. In North Yorkshire, the A19 southbound between the A684 and A61 causes minor delays clearing by 6:04. Nottinghamshire's A1 northbound faces restrictions from an overturned vehicle between the A52 and A46, anticipated to clear by 5:41. The M25 anti-clockwise at junction 12 in Surrey faces a 10-minute delay, clearing by 7:12. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and cross-country disruptions near Rugby and Cambridge due to engineering work. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you until 7.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
A very, very good afternoon to you and a Merry Betwixtmas, as it's called. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. We had a cracking show and here's what's on today's menu. The Labour Party has claimed it cannot deport the Egyptian extremist Alaa Abd el-Fattah. That's despite a huge public backlash, anger from the Jewish community and also huge resistance, calls for deportation from Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch. Critics point out that Lucy Connolly was jailed for far less, so why was el-Fattah ever allowed onto British soil? And is this further proof that our woke political class is totally unfit for purpose? And reports have now confirmed that Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. The former 2-time heavyweight boxing champion sustained minor injuries miraculously when his vehicle collided with a stationary truck along a busy section of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. We've got the latest pictures for you there, and we'll have a fresh update for you later in the show. And France's biggest policing union is refusing to stop the boats in French waters, claiming it is too dangerous for the illegal immigrants. Well, despite Keir Starmer claiming intercepting these dinghies was essential, French cops claim that immigrants could get injured and could sue them. With that in mind, is it finally time to defund the French? And could Nigel Farage help kick out Sadiq Khan as London Mayor? Well, the Reform UK leader claims his upstart party are going for gold in May's local elections with an eye on the 2028 mayoral race. Could the London's mayor's days be numbered? And a group of brassed-off barbers and hairdressers have given Labour Party MPs the chop by banning them from their salons. They're following the footstep of 1,000 pub landlords, and the crimpers reckon that Rachel Reeves has them by the short and curlies. After hiking business rate taxes to unsustainable levels, I'll be joined by one of the crimpers on today's show. And Edinburgh's Hogmanay celebrations get underway in about an hour and a half's time this evening with the Torchlight Procession, launching several days of street parties, music, fireworks and, of course, firewater. We'll bring you all of the build-up, and that's coming up all during your next hour. Bob to show us a pleasure to have your company. There's incredible pictures of the Anthony Joshua car crash that left 2 people dead in the front seat of that vehicle. It's almost a miracle when you look at those pictures that Anthony Joshua, who was believed to be travelling behind the driver in the rear of the car, that's the vehicle there. Anthony Joshua simply walked away. It's just incredible. Anybody has survived at all. We'll bring you all the latest pictures. And we'll also be joined by a journalist who has extra information. We believe has spoken to the state governor with a fresh update. Stick around to get that and get in touch the usual ways. gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. Or you can scan the barcode on your screens now if that's your cup of tea. But now's your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good evening to you. 3 minutes past 5 in the GB newsroom. Downing Street says it was right for a freed British Egyptian campaigner to apologise after the emergence of historical anti-Semitic social media posts. Alaa Abd el-Fattah's arrival in the UK on Friday after years of imprisonment in Egypt was welcomed by Sir Keir Starmer, but he's now facing calls from MPs across the House to strip the activist of his citizenship. Mr el-Fattah apologised unequivocally for posts in which he endorsed the killing of Zionists and police, but says his words have been completely twisted. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says Mr el-Fattah should be deported.
He said he hated white people, he described white people as dogs, he expressed anti-Semitic views, he called for Jewish civilians to be murdered, he called for Downing Street to be burnt down, he called for the British police to be attacked. This man is a scumbag, he has no place in the UK, and if I was Home Secretary I would strip him of his British citizenship and deport him to Egypt. And if Shabana Mahmood had our country's interests at heart, she would be doing exactly that today.
British boxer Anthony Joshua has been injured in a fatal car crash in southwest Nigeria. Officials believe Mr Joshua's vehicle crashed into a stationary lorry while travelling at speed on a busy highway north of Lagos. They say the 2 dead people are male foreign nationals. The 2-time heavyweight world champion was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Another 2 people escaped unhurt. Mr Joshua has often spoken of his Nigerian heritage and has family roots in the state of Ogun. It comes 10 days after Joshua's big money fight against the YouTuber Jake Paul. Volodymyr Zelensky says a peace plan to end the war with Russia is 90% agreed after talks with Donald Trump in Florida yesterday. The Ukrainian president added the US has offered 15 years of security guarantees to protect against future Russian aggression, which he appears to have accepted, despite asking for 50 years. The White House has since described a subsequent call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin as positive, although the Russian leader has instructed his generals to gain full control of the Donbass and says Ukraine should withdraw from the disputed region if it wants peace. President Trump accepts the issue of territory remains unresolved.
Some of that land has been taken. Some of that land is maybe up for grabs, but it may be taken over the next period of a number of months. And are you better off making a deal now? Look, let me tell you, they have been very brave. They fought very hard and continue to fight very hard and do tremendous damage. But Russia would like to see it end, and Ukraine would like to see it. And I think it's time to end.
A mother and her 2 children have been killed in a house fire which destroyed their home in Stroud on Boxing Day. Gloucestershire police say a 7-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy and their mother, aged in her late 30s, were all trapped inside the burning property. They say their father, who's a serving officer with the force, managed to escape but was unable to save his family. They've described it as a tragic accident. Separately, a child has died and another taken to hospital after a house fire in Kent. Emergency services say 3 firefighters also suffered minor injuries while tackling an intense blaze in the village of Ham Street near Ashford. New NHS figures show waiting times for a GP appointment have soared under Labour. 7.6 million patients faced a delay of more than 4 weeks across September, October and November. That's up 4.2% on the same time last year. And the Liberal Democrats who analysed the data say the figures represent a damning failure by the government to improve access. China's launched large-scale military operations to simulate a blockade of Taiwan. It's released these pictures on state TV, showing the biggest deployment of its armed forces in more than a year. China says it deployed nearly 90 jets and 28 ships in response to Washington's decision to approve the sale of $11 billion worth of weapons to Taiwan. Beijing claims the self-ruled island as its own territory. And 10 men have been named super donors by NHS Blood and Transplant. They're the only people in the last 20 years who've donated blood, plasma, platelets and stem cells, which are used to help treat a variety of injuries and illnesses, including life-threatening accidents and cancer. The group of men aged between 31 and 64 have been praised for their dedication in helping as many people as they can. Well, you're up to date here on GB News. I'll be back with more at 5:30.
Thank you, Aaron Armstrong. Now, Keir Starmer's plans to curb channel crossings have stalled after French police unions have today blocked a deal to intercept the small boats because they're warning that officers could face prosecution if interventions at sea lead to migrant deaths or injuries, despite, of course, an agreement with President Macron. Well, I'm now joined by the French journalist Hélène Roux. Hélène, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. So Keir Starmer has said that a deal with the French is essential to help stop the boats, and that deal, as we understood it, involved the Gendarme Maritime intercepting craft, if necessary, jamming propellers, if necessary, slashing the boats. And now the biggest French union have said, no, they won't do it. It's too dangerous. It's an absurdity. It's a French farce.
Hello, thank you for having me. Yes, well, we can understand their position. Why? Because no one, especially not the police officers, no one wants to take the risk of intercepting boats at sea, because police officers do not want to risk ending up in prison for intercepting these boats if something goes wrong. You have to know that the judicial pressure is tremendous in France. The legal system would not go easy on them if something went wrong or if someone drowned. And you have to add to the judicial pressure, you have to add the pressure of the far left politicians in France, because these people always shout, you know, police kills, and they would find a way to blame this on the police. So the police are saying, if the judicial system is not on our side, if we're not being protected, we will not intercept those boats and take that risk.
So you paint a very compelling picture for the British authorities to simply stop sending any money to France. If the police won't do the job that Sir Keir Starmer wants them to do, if the French police won't do the job that the British electorate want them to do, what's the point of giving any money to the French police? They're pointless.
Yeah, I agree with you, of course. I believe that our two nations must work together to reduce immigration. But the problem is that immigration must be reduced at its source directly in the countries, not in the north of France, not in the south of Great Britain. The immigration must be reduced together. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the money that Britain is giving us makes no sense, of course, because we are not being able to stop the migrants. The real problem here, everyone is kind of pretending to take action. You know, deals are signed, but nothing really happens. And in the time being, smugglers are able to continue operating. And that's the real problem. They are the ones that are truly responsible. And they're the ones putting migrants at incredible risk by transporting them.
Hélène Roux, is there another factor at play here? And it's this. Astonishingly, President Macron has lower approval ratings than Sir Keir Starmer. It's almost a miracle at Christmas. Why on earth would President Macron want to keep these illegal immigrants in France when his own popularity is simply on the floor? He doesn't want to stop them at all in the first place, does he?
No, he doesn't. It's true. We have trouble, journalists, honestly. We have trouble understanding what is Emmanuel Macron doing. There's going to be a next election in now a year and a half. And honestly, we do not really understand what is going on. The prime minister is changing every 3 months. We have tremendous problems in our parliament. We do not really understand Emmanuel Macron's decision, and that is not just only on the immigration problem. We do not understand his decisions in the diplomatic area. We had really huge strikes recently about the farmers were going down on the roads to denounce the Mercosur agreement. And Emmanuel Macron, he's saying one time I'm for, and the other time he's saying I'm against. To be really honest, we do not understand his decisions, and I believe that he says what the person in front of him wants to hear.
You know, I think that's a problem we have this side of the channel too. It seems to me that politicians say whatever the electorate believe they want to hear that day, and nothing ever changes. And Helen Roux, I want to thank you for your honesty. I think you've nailed it. It's like, why would Emmanuel Macron want to solve a problem that's causing him a huge political problem? He doesn't want more asylum seekers, more illegal immigrants on French soil. He wants shot of them. And the destination is Hotel Britannia, where the meals are free and the British taxpayer picks up the tab. Helen Roux, thank you very, very much for joining us on the show. And a joyeux Noël, as they might say to you in Franglais.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
All the best. Take care. Matthew Sadden joins me in the studio. Matthew, I want to get a quick reaction to you before we move on to our next story. I think that's the point. Emmanuel Macron has no interest whatsoever in stopping the boats because it will sink his political career.
So unless there's a law that I'm not aware of, it clearly seems to be the case that Macron is not motivated properly to stop the boats. I don't understand that, though, because you say it helps him get rid of or move on migrants, all of whom, let's remember, let's humanise them. They're human beings, many of them desperate, some of them women, children, some of them desperate men.
Most of them.
But nonetheless, Martin, I don't understand it, because if he puts an end to this by taking back everyone who arrived in a rubber dinghy, people would not be crowding in camps in northern France. And those camps are not the sort of things you want. They're not the sort of things you... They never stand for it. Then he should make the case, shouldn't he, that if you don't want parts of northern France to be overrun by really quite squalid camps, and I feel for everyone living in them, stop the traffic.
But he won't. And that's the point. We should stop the money.
If I were Keir Starmer, and Jacob Rees-Mogg said the other day he thinks I might make quite a good Labour Prime Minister, I would be going over to the Elysee. I would go over to France, to Paris, and I'd sit down, have a slap-up meal with President Macron, and I'd say, listen, buddy, come on, let's do this. It's good for you, it's good for me. Bit of charisma, bit of personality, get over there and do the deal.
Matthew Sadler making a pitch for the Labour leader's job on the show today, never shy about coming forward. Stick with us, because on to our next story now. Keir Starmer is also facing huge questions, this time over his reaction to the return of a British-Egyptian activist. Alaa Abd el-Fattah, once jailed in Egypt, previously made posts calling for the mass killing of Israelis. Comments now resurfacing and sparking huge concern and debate. The Labour Party has defended its support of this individual, saying it welcomes the return of the British citizen, Alaa Abd el-Fattah, who it says was unfairly detained abroad. But let's take a look back in time. Here's what Keir Starmer had to say back in 2022.
And can I start by raising the case of Alaa Abd el-Fattah? As the Prime Minister knows and has said, he's a British citizen, jailed for the crime of posting on social media and been imprisoned in Egypt for most of the last 9 years. He's been on hunger strike for the last 6 months. Now, the Prime Minister just said that he raised it with President Sisi. Can he tell us what progress he made in securing Alaa's release?
Now, that clip is important for two big reasons. First of all, today, the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, everybody involved in this sordid affair is claiming they were totally unaware of his social media posts back in 2022, despite the fact they're claiming he was in prison for a social media post. Isn't it ironic that Sir Keir Starmer has been imprisoning people for their social media posts? Matthew Sadler, including Lucy Connolly. Now, nothing that Lucy Connolly, I put it to you, is as bad as what this individual has said. Britons are dogs and monkeys. The police are not human and should be killed. The City of London and Downing Street should be burned down. Zionists should be killed, including using drones to target their weddings. The Holocaust didn't happen, and white people are a blight on the earth, and there needs to be a genocide to wipe them out. This guy has abhorrent views, and I put it to you, he should never even have been allowed on British soil.
Those historic posts are absolutely horrific. The only thing I could really say in defence of... The main thing I would say in defence of Lucy Connolly, whose post was also absolutely horrific, was that she said, for all I care, but she talked about burning down asylum hotels for all she cared. That was outrageous.
The police are not human and should be killed.
I think that horrific.
The Holocaust didn't happen.
Horrific.
White people are a blight on earth and there needs to be a genocide. Everything he said there is worse than what Lucy Connolly said.
What he said was horrific. Although presumably you don't support the burning down of asylum hotels.
Of course I don't.
What I would suggest to you, though, what I would say to you is that the reason this man, it turns out, was given citizenship under a Conservative government in 2021, according to the Home Office, who talked to me about this today or emailed me about this today, is because character didn't come into it. It was effectively an automatic citizenship through a law that entitled him to it because his mother was British.
And that's a mistake, and that loophole should be closed.
There can be all sorts of conversations about how you change the law or not. That's why he's in the country. Do I think he should be stripped of his citizenship? Like Jacob Rees-Mogg, I do not think we should have a two-tier citizenship. I think if once you're British, and if you commit a crime, you get punished for it. As far as Keir Starmer is concerned, the mistake he's made is that the people around him did not do due diligence by working out that this guy had put out these horrific messages, and therefore, as Prime Minister, you do not say, welcome to Britain, I'm delighted to have you. That is a mistake. Keir Starmer, politically speaking, is holed below the waterline of a sinking ship at the moment with just the tuft of his quiff sticking out. He needs to get a grip, and he needs to get a grip fast.
But he's not getting a grip, because here's the hypocrisy of this. Throwing all your political capital behind supporting somebody like this without doing a basic background check that took Twitter less than 3 hours to do. Anybody
I'm afraid...
It's public knowledge that this guy was refused an award for blatant anti-Semitism years ago. Why on earth are they not doing background checks when they always bang on about some reform councillor who said something offensive 5 years ago on Facebook? You know, they want to hang people's political careers on the basis of the fact that they've failed in their own basic due diligence.
Presumably this is partly about a handover, because don't forget, Liz Truss, when she was Foreign Secretary, was campaigning for his release. She told the Commons that she was working towards
Forget about Liz Truss.
Release. So don't say forget about Liz
on the
Truss,
Labour Party's watch.
No, but it also happened on the Conservative Party's watch. Let me make this point. The team around Starmer, and he keeps changing his team, and I don't know these people personally, they are not getting it right, and that is a serious issue, because Labour, there is an argument to be made, is doing quite a lot of good stuff, nitty-gritty stuff. The comms, I would argue, are atrocious.
A bad workman always blames his tools. How about we blame the son of a toolmaker?
Ultimately, Keir Starmer has to take responsibility for everything that goes out under his name. I'm saying he doesn't seem to have the team around him that can do the job properly.
On that, I think we can agree. Matthew Sadler, thank you very, very much. Time now for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, an incredible 85 grand tax-free cash. Now, all that extra moolah on the bank, that could be like having 2026 all on us, your buddies here at GB News. Here's a chance for you to make it all yours.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays. Yes to treats. Yes to shopping trips. Yes to home improvements. What would you say yes to? For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck with that. And Anthony Joshua has been injured in a fatal car crash that killed 2 people in Nigeria. Incredibly, Anthony Joshua, the 2 times world champion, walked away from the scene of this smash. That's the vehicle Mr. Joshua was travelling. You can see absolutely pummeled. Stay tuned. We've got a new update. We're speaking to a journalist who has spoken with the authorities in Nigeria. That's next on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Time is 5:25 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, British heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 people in Nigeria. Miraculously, Anthony Joshua, who is 36, only sustained minor injuries after his vehicle collided with another car. Now, according to preliminary police findings, the Lexus Jeep, which Joshua was travelling in, is suspected of travelling beyond the legally prescribed speed limit and lost control during an overtaking manoeuvre and crashed into a stationary truck by the side of the road. Those pictures on your screen now confirming that. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Nick Pisa. He's the senior reporter at the Daily Mail, who'll soon be getting on a flight to Nigeria. Nick, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have your company. An incredible story, and the more details that emerged, it appears that Anthony Joshua literally cheated death by feet.
Absolutely, Martin, absolutely. It transpires that he was behind the driver, so on the driver's side of the car, the Lexus, and the driver and Anthony Joshua escaped serious injury. But unfortunately, the 2 people on the near side, as you can see from those pictures, were both killed instantly in this crash. They clipped the side of a stationary truck, and the pictures that I'm seeing, you've seen as well, they are actually quite horrific. It looks like initially I was told by the authorities in Nigeria that they suspected a tyre blowout. But as you've just said in your most recent update there, they are now suspecting that excessive speed might have been part of the reason for this crash. But obviously very early days yet and the investigations are still ongoing. What we do know is that Anthony Joshua was quickly taken away by his security detail. And I understand from the authorities in Nigeria, who I've been speaking to a few minutes ago, he was taken to a private hospital along with the driver. The state governor said to me that he managed to walk away, quotes, on his own 2 feet. And I have seen video which does show him walking away there, albeit with the help of first responders. But he does look very dazed in those in that video clip that I've seen. But thankfully, we do know that he is still alive miraculously.
And Nick Pisa, just to confirm, we initially thought that both people in the front of the vehicle had been killed by the force of a head-on impact. As you say now, the driver, who was spared his life, Anthony Joshua sitting behind him, spared his life. The other two died. Nick Pisa, quite simply, you're faced with decisions in life, 50-50 decisions. Where do I sit in a car? Where do I get in the car? If Anthony Joshua had got on the other side of that car, Nick, he'd be dead.
It would have been a very different story indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a very, very fortunate man. I don't know if you've been able to have a chance to see his social media beforehand. Literally 3 or 4 hours beforehand, he was playing table tennis with a friend who we believe was part of that entourage in that travelling convoy. They were on their way to a town called Sagamu, which is about an hour and a half north of Lagos, where Anthony Joshua has family, and he was there on holiday, travelling towards this village where his family lived when this terrible accident took place, and which is under investigation by the authorities. But as you say there, if he had been sitting on the near side of that car behind the passenger, it would have been a very, very different story indeed. He considered himself very, very fortunate. I do know from the Nigerian authorities that the two men who sadly lost their lives were also British as well, and as a part of his entourage.
It really is an incredible story of survival. A man, of course, who's well used to being on the receiving end of physical pain in the boxing ring. But I wonder, Nick Pisa, if this will change him, forever. I mean, to come that close to death, to see somebody next to you, if you like, be on the unlucky side of that car, it's almost a miracle at Christmas.
Absolutely, yes. I should imagine it will have a very, very traumatic impact on him when he is released, and who knows if he'll ever be able to get back into a ring again. But then again, sometimes maybe facing up to what you're confident in, what you're doing, it might help him to get over this. But I should imagine he'll have PTSD for a very long time afterwards.
And is there any more information from the authorities there? I mean, you say they suspect he was travelling at over the speed limit. Do you know anything about this route of being, a kind of hazard? Because, look, anybody who's travelled in countries like Nigeria, countries in Africa, countries in Asia, we know that the roads can be very dangerous.
They can be, and interesting actually, Monica, I've been reading some comments on social media in Nigeria at the moment, and they are all saying that that road, the quality of the highway there between Lagos and Sagamu is actually very, very good. Obviously, they are saying that speed is probably what played an impact here, and also the unfortunate situation of that car being stationary to the side of the road. If it had happened a few meters either before or afterwards, they might well have swerved that stationary truck, which was, I understand from the authorities, broken down and parked by the side of the road.
And it basically looks like the equivalent of like a hard shoulder. The vehicle's there, just pulled up. The stationary vehicle, it happens, right? Happens all over the world. And for whatever reason, during an overtaking manoeuvre, as we understand it, Nick Pisa, that offside has simply clipped that rear corner and it smashed that entire side away, killing both people on one side and, astonishingly, leaving those on the other side walking away.
Walking away, that's right. I say the governor of that Ogun state said to me that he had seen video images of Anthony Joshua literally walking away on his own, quotes, on his own 2 legs, but with the help of emergency first responders and bystanders who were at the scene as well.
Well, Nick Pisa, thank you for joining us. I know you're hot-footing it now to the airport to get to Nigeria. I hope we can speak with you tomorrow on the show when we get more updates. Excellent journalist, Nick Pisa. Thank you very, very much once again for your endeavours. And be careful how you travel. Nick Pisa, thank you very much for joining us today on GB News. Matthew Stadler, let's get back to you. I mean, we were looking at the graphics here that the Daily Mail, Nick Pisa's newspaper, put together of that, and literally one side of the car taken away, but 2 fatalities on that side. The other side, just by a toss of a coin, Anthony Joshua has evaded death.
It's distressing looking at the pictures. It's distressing hearing that account from Nick. It's distressing talking about it. As you know, I've met Anthony Joshua. I liked him, so you feel that little bit closer. But anyone who follows British national life will have some idea of Anthony Joshua. And the notion that he literally had a 50% chance of survival, if you consider that, is really horrifying. And also that 2 British nationals appear to have lost their lives. Goodness me, I mean, that is going to have a profound effect on him, and my heart goes out to the families of those involved.
And when you look at that, I mean, if it's 2 British nationals, chances are would be people that he knew. He was travelling with another vehicle behind his security detail. We understand they were travelling to visit Anthony Joshua's family. Of course, he has Nigerian descent. This is a Christmas reunion that all of us have been doing. You've been driving around the country.
I did 14 hours of driving Christmas Eve through to the end of Boxing Day with a GB News slot in between. It's a lot of driving, and it's incumbent on all of us to remember, this might sound po-faced, but then you hear about this tragedy. Every time we step inside a vehicle, we have to remember that these are potentially fatal instruments. We've got to be incredibly careful. Also, by the way, we know that a lot of Brits die abroad, and people sometimes, I'm not making any comment on this case, but people sometimes let their guard down when they're abroad, and you can't afford to do that.
I think you're exactly right, and it's a 50-50 chance there. Looking at these pictures, Anthony Joshua, if he'd been sat on the other side of the car, he would now be dead. It's an incredible escape at Christmas. Matthew Sadler, thank you very, very much indeed. Now, the plane will come throughout the rest of the show, but for now, if you are travelling home on the roads, please, especially after this story, stay safe. Here's your traffic and your travel update, and please stick with us. I'll see you soon.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In North Yorkshire, the A19 southbound has a collision with one lane closed, causing 10-minute delays. In Salford, the M60 anti-clockwise is congested with similar delays. In Nottinghamshire, the A1 northbound collision involves an overturned vehicle, closing one lane. All lanes are closed on the A11 southbound in Norfolk due to an incident. Expect diversions. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast conducts major engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Northampton, while Cross Country carries out similar operations around Cambridge. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Well, goodbye. Now it's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good evening to you. Our top stories. Downing Street has defended Alaa Abd el-Fattah's entry into the UK, insisting the government would welcome the return of any citizen unfairly detained abroad. The activist, who was recently released after years of detention in Egypt, previously wrote tweets which appeared to show him calling for violence against Zionists and the police. Anthony Joshua has been injured in a fatal car crash in southwest Nigeria. The boxer's been taken to hospital for treatment, while 2 passengers, described by local officials as male foreign nationals, were killed. Volodymyr Zelensky says the US has offered Ukraine 15 years of security guarantees to protect against future Russian aggression. It follows a meeting with Donald Trump, who claimed agreement on a peace plan is close, although he says thorny questions over territory remain. A mother and her 2 children aged 7 and 4 have been killed in a house fire in Gloucestershire. It happened in the Brimscombe Hill area of Stroud in the early hours of Boxing Day. And air passengers being warned to prepare for more expensive travel as regional airports across the UK face unprecedented rises in property tax next year. Bristol, Manchester and Birmingham are amongst the worst to be hit. Here's your headlines. I'll have a full bulletin at 6 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Dry for the rest of today, a few glimmers of sunshine. However, it does remain breezy, particularly across northern and southern areas. Now, high pressure is in charge, but there is a weak cold front pushing southwards through the country. It's not going to bring a lot of rain with it, but it will bring some clearer skies from the north throughout this evening. Before then, though, a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, a few spots of rain here and there, and then clearer skies follow behind. Most prevalent across northwestern areas of Scotland. Here temperatures will fall away quite quickly this evening. We're expecting a fairly harsh frost actually through much of Scotland and parts of northwest England as well. Further south and west though, with more cloud around, will be a somewhat milder start, and there will be more in the way of sunshine through Tuesday, particularly across northern areas at first. Across the bulk of Scotland actually, despite the frosty start, there will be plenty of sunshine around and about, as well as across parts of Northern Ireland, northwest Scotland, northwestern England as well. Eastern areas though, continuing to see cloudier skies and the risk of the odd shower. Could also see some showers moving in across the English Channel coasts as well, but I think for most of us we should stay dry overnight and into Tuesday. As I said, more in the way of sunshine to come on Tuesday. The best of the sunshine will be in the afternoon, particularly across parts of England and Wales. We've got an onshore breeze, quite a brisk northerly wind affecting many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel once again, so we'll feel much closer to 2 or 3 degrees across parts of northeastern England, but across the south and west with plenty of sunshine it won't feel too bad at all. Clear skies continue into Tuesday evening. That will make for a very cold start to New Year's Eve. A widespread frost across much of the UK, and that cold feel will continue as we head into 2026, as there's a risk of snow developing, particularly over the high ground. Bye-bye.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:39. Merry Betwixtmas, as I call it, with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, hairdressers are following the footsteps of pubs by banning Labour Party MPs over what they are calling the government's business rates betrayal. More than 1,000 boozers have already barred the party's politicians from their premises in a growing backlash against Rachel Reeves's budget. And now crimpers are following suit. Well, let's now speak with the owner of the Green Hairdressing Salon, Nicola Harrison. Nicola, welcome to the show, and I hope you're having a wonderful festive period. So 1,000 landlords barred Labour Party MPs, and now hairdressers are following suit. Are you one of them?
No, because I don't think that's the way to get something changed. It will make a difference and we will be heard, but it won't solve the problem. We need to solve the problem.
And do you think it'd be better, actually, I spoke with Marguerite, a hair salon owner, in the previous hour. She said, actually, she would like the local Labour Party MP to come in, have a cup of tea, sit down, have a bit of a pamper, and for you to talk to them, to try and explain the circumstances that you're in. Do you think that's the problem, Nicola, is that parliamentarians, whatever their political party, they simply don't understand the pressure of small business?
People don't trust politicians because they say one thing and do the total opposite. And with my salon, I decided to go and have a meeting with Adam Thompson, and he clearly understood, and he's going to speak in Parliament about the issue.
Okay,
spoke to Maggie Throop before that, who was Conservative, and she said she ran her own business for 20 years and understood the daily struggles of running her own business, which was laughable, because it's not like the daily struggles of picking a shampoo, it's life or death for employed salons right now.
And so you've actually sat down with your parliamentarian and put it to them, and you've got action, Nick Harrison. They're going to stand up in Parliament and fight your corner.
Hopefully, yes.
Do you have any faith that they'll get the job done, or do you think they're just talking hot air?
No, I don't think Adam Thompson has much power. His words will be heard, but whether there'll be action taken, they are absolutely destroying our industry. We're having no apprentices. Everything's turned into rent-a-chair. The clients don't understand between the difference of rent-a-chair and employed salons.
Well, Nicola, I've got a picture up here of your local parliamentarian, Adam Thompson. He's the Labour Party MP for Erewash there. And I've got to say, he's got a fine head of hair. He's got a fine beard. So surely you should get him in, give him a little tickle, as it were, and get him on your side. But you still think that they kind of say one thing and completely do the opposite?
Yes.
Well, there we go. You don't have much faith at all in parliamentarians. Do you think... I asked my previous guest, do you think that politicians should be forced to do real jobs before they get into politics so they understand the real world?
Yes, but they also must understand politics as well. The VAT threshold was frozen for 7 years at 85,000, and it was Conservatives that raised it by 5 this year, last year. And
Nicola, I think you're exactly right. I think you're exactly right. A whole lot of them don't seem to understand the real world. Look, thank you for joining us today. That's the owner of the Green Hairdressing Salon, Nicola Harrison. I hope you all have all the best of luck. Do you know what? We're going to get in touch with Adam Thompson and try and get him on the show, see what he's got to say about your sector. Thank you very much, Nicola Harrison, and a very happy New Year to you. Now, Labour Party source has told GB News the government is backing high street businesses across the country, including hairdressers and salons, and that's why the Chancellor announced a support package worth £4.3 billion at the budget last month. Now, a very quick comment from you, Matthew Stadlen, your last of the day. Is this the problem? Parliamentarians simply don't understand real jobs, could never have one.
Quite possibly part of a problem, and I think Nicola's doing a really good thing there in getting in touch with her local representative, and that is British democracy in action. He may not have huge power, but fantastic she's talking to him. Great if he speaks in Parliament. I do think that there is a problem, an issue likely, between a disconnect between people like Nicola and the politicians that serve us. So the more conversations she's having and the more people like Nicola you have on GB News, the better.
Super. Matthew, you've been great today. Thank you very much for all your input this year. I'll give you a final shake of the hand. Hope to see more of you in 2026. Now, for Surge Some Holiday Sun, here's a forecast of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Are you after some sunshine this Christmas period? There is some on offer, particularly if you're going to the Canaries. Plenty of sunshine here, but Madeira seeing outbreaks of rain for Tuesday and brighter skies for Spain and Portugal. Sunny spells here, 1 or 2 showers, but more settled across into Italy, parts of Greece where we'll see showers, some longer spells of rain at times, but particularly mild for the time of year, 15, 16 Celsius. Turning cooler here over the next few days, but increasing amounts of sunshine too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Samantha, Jeffrey, thank you for your time tonight on The Late Show Live. Really appreciate it. This is a story that, amongst all the stories of wars and murders and crime and so on, at least it's given us a laugh, and at least the raccoon is okay. Just explain to us, if you can, Samantha, exactly what happened. Where was the raccoon found? Where is he now? Who found him and so on?
Yeah, so the store manager went to open up the ABC store here in Ashland, Virginia, and discovered a bunch of broken bottles in the back room. Upon further investigation, he was also located a raccoon that was passed out in one of the bathrooms. He had locked himself in the bathroom, and that's when the store manager called us to get him.
So first things first, how on earth did he end up in the store? How did he get in there?
So he fell through the ceiling. So he went through a ceiling tile and took out the wiring for the video camera as he was falling down. So we don't have a whole lot to go off of, just what the evidence that we encountered when we got to the scene of the crime.
So he fell through the ceiling, and I guess he landed on, because there's pictures here we've got of bottles of, I think it's whiskey, just strewn all over the store. So he must have fallen through the ceiling onto the shelves, smashed all the bottles, and then I guess from there thought it was going to be a great idea to, what, lap up all the alcohol on the floor?
I guess so. He just decided to have a party.
And who found him?
The store manager.
And what was their reaction? Have you spoken to them? What were their first sort of comments to you when I guess they called you to report the raccoon passed out in the bathroom, right?
Yeah, they were a little bit distraught. They didn't know how to get him out. They obviously did not want to pick him up themselves. So that's why they called us for assistance.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Time is 5:48 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Edinburgh's Hogmanay festivities begin with the torchlight procession in around about 45 minutes' time. And the Hogmanay Festival dates back to 1993 and has evolved to become one of the greatest outdoor celebrations of New Year's Eve in the entire world.
This is day one of 3 magical days of festivities as the Scots do what they do best and stretch a party out as far as it will go. So tonight, although it's freezing, the best way to combat that is with heat, lots and lots of heat, and that torchlight procession is going to provide just that. 15,000 torches are going to form this river of fire as it flows down the Royal Mile all the way to the Scottish Parliament building and on to Holyrood Park. And then, of course, on Wednesday it's going to be the all singing, all dancing hootenanny of them all. This big Edinburgh street party, going to expect 50 to 70,000 people in attendance to that, all around to watch some live music. The forecast for the next few days does look pretty great in Scotland, especially here in Edinburgh, and that's important because last year's Hogmanay celebration was a washout. It was cancelled previous to that. The only other time it had been cancelled was during the pandemic. And of course Edinburgh as a city, its vendors lost out on up to £50 million. So organisers really keen to see things go ahead this year. And fair to say, all going well, looking at those charts, it looks like it is going to happen. So Edinburgh, very much the place to be partying and celebrating New Year's Eve. If you're looking for a place to party on Wednesday, might I suggest the Scottish capital.
That's it. The ceremony begins in about 40 minutes' time. Now to our top story today. The British heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua has been injured in a car crash that killed 2 other people in Nigeria. Joshua, who is 36, miraculously only sustained minor injuries after his vehicle collided with another car. According to the Ogun State Police, he has been taken to hospital and police are now investigating the cause of this accident. So let's get some final thoughts now from my political studio guest, political commentator Matthew Stadden. Of course, you've met Anthony Joshua, and the details now, Matthew, are incredible. The details are that the vehicle, we're hearing reports, was going over the speed limit. It clipped a stationary vehicle, a truck. If we can get those pictures up on our screens, you'll see that the offside of the car, that's the front passenger, not the driver, and the passenger behind, that entire side of the vehicle was killed. The other side of the car, the driver and Anthony Joshua sitting behind the driver, miraculously escaped. Matthew Stadlen, a 50-50 chance here that Anthony Joshua was killed. Miraculously, he's walked away.
Brought back to me this horrible story that news of the India plane crash not so long ago when so many people died and one person survived. Do you remember? Just a couple of months or however long ago it was. A few more months than that. The luck involved, but also at the same time the horror of coming that close to death. As you say, effectively it seems 50-50 chance. If he'd been sitting on the other side, he wouldn't be with us today. Of course, that means that someone whose life is equally valuable is not with us today, and that must be hugely traumatising for those who survive. You wonder about the impact that might have on him and others involved. And something else that struck me about this story is the speed in today's world with which videos and pictures flood our social media streams and our television screens. You know, just a few years ago, you would have to wait days and maybe see it in the newspapers, but this is coming so quickly now. We are so connected.
OK, Matthew Stadlen, we have to leave it there. You've been superb today. Just to repeat, Anthony Joshua there miraculously walked away from that crash. 2 other people have passed away. Incredible scenes, a 50-50 chance of dying. We'll have more on that throughout the rest of the evening. The next show, of course, is Jubes & Co. Tonight is hosted by the magnificent Miriam Cakes. Miriam, what's on your menu?
Good evening, Martin. Well, we will be digging into the strange story of Alaa Abd, the Egyptian activist who was feted when he arrived in the UK by the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister has now backtracked after it emerged that el-Fattah has made some fruity social media comments in the past. He can't be deported, but we'll be asking how he gained citizenship in the first place. And why have the French police said no to stopping the boats? They're worried about legal repercussions, are they right? All that after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Dry for the rest of today, a few glimmers of sunshine. However, it does remain breezy, particularly across northern and southern areas. Now, high pressure is in charge, but there is a weak cold front pushing southwards through the country. It's not going to bring a lot of rain with it, but it will bring some clearer skies from the north throughout this evening. Before then, though, a blanket of cloud across much of England and Wales, a few spots of rain here and there, and then clearer skies follow behind. Most prevalent across northwestern areas of Scotland. Here, temperatures will fall away quite quickly this evening. We're expecting a fairly harsh frost, actually, through much of Scotland and parts of northwest England as well. Further south and west, though, with more cloud around, will be a somewhat milder start, and there will be more in the way of sunshine through Tuesday,